Downs is suing former neighbors, 45-year-old waitress Paula Nagel and her friend, 37-year-old homemaker Connie Barnett. Anthony says their children vandalized his car. Paula and Connie are countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 186 on the calendar in the matter of Downs versus Nagel Barnett.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, huh?
First, let me advise all of you that I have no intention of going back historically into the ongoing allegations of harassment, restraining orders, etc., that exists between you two people. And I'm going to start on a particular day. And that day is back in February of 2001, when I understand from reading your complaint that all of you appeared in court. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that day in February, you all seem to have come to some sort of at least a temporary resolution of this ongoing harassment that each of you claim that the other is causing you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yes. So you're in court. You received a restraining order against him?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a restraining order at that time against them?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Everybody's shaking hands saying, we hope this whole thing will go away. And then you exit the courthouse. Is that right?
No, I didn't know, ma'am. I did not leave the courthouse yet.
Your car was parked in the parking lot.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, you saw the defendant's sons doing something to your car.
No, ma'am, I did not see him until after I was told that they were doing damage to my car.
Who saw it?
My son.
Step up here. Tell me your name.
Michael.
Michael. Your dad is in court. You went outside to wait for him?
No, I was in the lobby where we were getting ready to get the papers, and as I looked around the corner, because I was seeing if the car was okay, the next thing you know, I saw them. They were sitting there kicking the bumper.
Who was?
Jared, Jevin, and Tyler.
These three boys?
Yes, ma'am.
All three boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Was your car parked there as well?
Yes, ma'am.
How far away from where your car was parked was the plaintiff's car parked?
Okay, the plaintiff's car was parked like in the third parking space on the front of the median. My car was on the back side, about 3 cars down.
So, a good distance away from his car?
Correct.
Step up here, all three of you. Names?
Jared Barnett. Tyler Nagel.
Jevin Barnett.
Now, I've read the answer here, and the answer says that you guys were just playing around air karate kicking. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Shh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Why were you air karate kicking around his car?
Because we were mad because he got away with throwing a softball at my friend Tyler.
So you were mad?
Yes, ma'am.
And you left court, and you went out and found his car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he says you damaged the car.
I didn't.
You didn't. What about you?
I wasn't even near it.
Where were you?
About 5 feet away from me.
You were 5 feet away. You were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you air karate kicking the car too?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that they were doing that?
No.
You have photographs of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were your parents when you were kicking this car?
They were just leaving.
Were
We
they
came
inside
out.
the courthouse when you went outside?
Yes, ma'am.
You went outside first.
Yes, ma'am. We were going to the car. We were going to our car.
Which car?
I was going to my car.
But you weren't going to your car.
Yes, I was. It was
Well,
on
what
the
did you
way.
stop at his car for?
We got mad, and so we just started to pretend.
When did you get mad? Between the courthouse door and the time you got to his car, tell me approximately when you got mad.
I was mad.
Inside the courthouse?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't just get mad, you were mad before you left the courthouse.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about you? Were you mad or you just following?
I was mad too, ma'am.
What were you mad at?
For him getting away,
Getting away with doing what?
throwing a softball at me, ma'am.
And is that what this case was about that you were in court about?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you hurt when the softball hit you?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did the softball hit you?
On my bottom lower lip on the left,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got a scar.
And what happened? Did the judge dismiss that case?
Yes.
So your sons were angry.
Yes.
You subsequently got a restraining order against them in
I had,
March.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So that then there are now mutual restraining orders.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Okay.
Ma'am. My attorney's paralegal. I have an affidavit from her saying that she was there and seen it.
No. I only take witnesses, not affidavits.
Well, she could not be here today because she was at a case with my attorney.
That's not my problem. That's your problem. I don't take affidavits. But I believe your son, and I don't believe the fact that they were angry and they just went outside and air karate kicked it, and as a result of something else, your car got damaged. The car looks like a relatively new car. Is it a new car?
Yes, ma'am. It's a 2000 Buick Regal.
Yeah, and you get absolutely no satisfaction air karate kicking a car. You get satisfaction when you actually kick it, right, Bird?
That's right.
That's right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anthony Downs says 11-year-old Tyler Nagel, 11-year-old Jared Barnett, and 13-year-old Jevin Barnett vandalized his car. The children deny the charge.
So how much did it cost you to fix the car, sir? I have a lot of different bills here. Is it $500? Or
That was what we had to pay at the end, yes, ma'am.
was your deductible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so now we come to March 8th. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim says that he violated the restraining order, and that's the only thing that I'm going to hear. Somebody want to tell me about it?
We do not deny that the boys were in a place where they should not have been, but we are denying all the allegations.
Good, and I find that they kicked his car. I find that based upon several things. Quiet and listen.
Okay.
I don't believe them that they never came into contact with the car with their shoes or their feet. I believe that they were angry because little brother over here got hit with a ball. They felt it was his fault. Judge dismissed the case. They went outside, and little boys don't get any satisfaction air karateing a car. They get satisfaction if they actually come into contact with the car. And unless the air karate kick fairy did this damage to the car, somebody did it. So I find that they did it. Now let's move to your counterclaim, madam, which is the only thing I'm going to hear right now. Got a restraining order. You say that there was continual harassment after that.
After we filed the restraining order,
How are you related to this case?
he's suing me too because those are my children.
Which children?
This one and this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I was coming home from picking up my son Jared from the roller rink, and I pushed the button to open up my garage door, and he was coming from the side of my yard, down my driveway, and in front of me.
Yes.
So I called her husband because my husband was gone, and he came over, and then we called the police.
And what happened?
They went over there and talked to him, and he said that he was in bed sleeping at the time, and that there was nothing we could do because there wasn't a third party involved.
So you saw him walk from the side of your house.
Yeah,
What's
well, he
next?
was running, ma'am.
Running. What's next?
I have pictures where he was on 3 different occasions taking his children to school. I have pictures of him driving by the house where he could have taken 3 to 4 other routes, which were shorter than the one he took, but I feel he took these just to make himself known that he was there.
So he drove his children to school and he could have taken a different route and avoided going on your street. Is that what you're saying?
3
It's
or
not
4
harassment.
different
What's
routes.
next? Anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to hear you.
I still have 2 court documents stating that there was no damage to the car.
Listen carefully to me. I find that there was damage to the car as a result of your boys kicking the car. They practically confessed. The only thing they didn't confess to was that their feet, when they were doing the karate kicks, actually came in contact with the car. I don't have to repeat it to you 20 times. They were seen doing karate kicks to the car, and there's damage to a brand new car. Should have watched them more carefully.
Ma'am.
Your counterclaim's dismissed for harassment. Listen to me. The matter was resolved as of February 16th. The only thing that I'm entertaining is the damage to your car. Listen to me very carefully. That cost you $500, right?
And a car rental.
I don't care about
We had
the
to,
car
we had to
rental.
rent a car because it was getting fixed.
Do you think that I believe that when there is an ongoing problem with harassment between 2 families, listen to me very carefully. You're not receiving. When there is ongoing problems with 2 families, like there is with these 2 families involving children, that all the adults aren't a little at fault? I believe that they're all a little at fault. The adults. All the adults.
Can I say something? The day that the restraining order took place is the day that, before this court date, they said I did this to her house.
I'm dismissing her counterclaim for harassment, sir. You have to understand that. If you listened instead of
Okay.
had your own thing going on in your head, you would understand that. I don't find driving down a street or coming from the side of her house harassment. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're in a receiving mode. So being in a receiving mode, I'm telling you, sir, that I believe that when there is an ongoing pattern that requires police, prosecutors, detectives, court personnel to waste their time to deal with childish behavior and adults are involved, you don't get your car rental. You got it?
But I didn't do the
But
damage.
you do get your out-of-pocket expenses for them kicking your car, which they did. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They had beaten Michael up several times.
He was found guilty of assault battery against my son, Jared.
They had me down, so I was kicking and punching, trying to get my way out of the fight.
The father should have just broke it up, had boys shaking their hands, and go on with life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kettleson versus Kettleson. Step forward, please.
28-year-old cashier Jennifer Kettleson is suing her brother, 25-year-old welder Nathaniel Kettleson, for unpaid loans, the return of her belongings, and damages from an assault. Nathaniel is countersuing for storage fees.
Ms. Kettleson, the defendant is your brother. I've read your papers, your complaint, and your answer. Nowhere in the complaint or the answer do I see the need for any child witnesses, so I'm going to have her take this child outside.
Come on, buddy.
All right. According to what I've read, you were living in Alaska with your children. Things weren't going well there. You spoke with your brother. Your brother offered to open his house to you if you wanted to relocate from Alaska to Montana, where he lived with his family. You sold some stuff, packed up the rest, and moved in with your brother. Things did not work out. You got into a major brouhaha with him, either a week or two later. According to you, he kicked you out of the house.
Right.
You want him to pay for the following: $500, which is what you say it cost you for a motel to stay with your family. $1,400, which is the amount that you say you had to borrow for airline tickets because someone else said that you could come to stay with them in New York. A couple of $1,000 for your aggravation. In addition, you claimed that he had borrowed some money from you.
That's correct.
Several $100s, and he didn't pay you back all of the money, right?
Correct.
Mr. Kettleson, your brother, has a counterclaim. His counterclaim is you left, and you left a whole bunch of your stuff there, and then he and his family were relocating. Because he was a nice guy, he took your stuff with him when he relocated, and the van wasn't big enough to hold his stuff, so he had to put his stuff in storage, and he wants you to pay for the storage for his stuff because he took better care of your stuff, right?
That's correct.
Are you all nuts or what? Ms. Kettleson, if you go and live with somebody, a member of your family, and things don't work out, you believe that there's a contract, and the contract existed between you and your brother to provide a home for you and your children, even if the situation became intolerable? And that's why you believe he's responsible for this $1,900 in expenses you had to move out of his house?
Your Honor, he called me up and he said that we can come down and stay with him, and he seemed very, very polite about it and everything, and he had to convince me to come down.
You're a big adult. Do you think if a living arrangement doesn't work out with a relative, you're entitled to further relocation expenses?
Yes, I do.
Wrong. I don't have to hear anymore. Forget it. That doesn't happen. And your aggravation as a result of that also doesn't happen. You take your chances. You move from Alaska, where you weren't doing well, to Montana in the hopes that you would do better. Didn't work out, so you moved on. That's not a lawsuit. That's called unfortunate.
Your Honor, he said that he would be sending my stuff to me. I have a letter from him about that, and...
Okay, so he has some of your belongings.
Right.
Fine, let's talk about the loans first. We'll talk about the belongings second. Loans, when did you lend him money?
I lent him money on October 10th, or 18th.
How much?
$300.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid 200 of that back.
You have any proof of that?
No.
She says you
other
paid
than
back
your testimony.
$150.
Yes.
Wasn't expecting it to go this far.
Okay. What was the next loan? When was that?
October 18th.
What were the circumstances surrounding that loan?
He brought his daughter over so I can watch her and while he went somewhere, and he asked me for $100.
Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
This
Did
is
you
at
give her
the
back that
hotel.
money?
No, I did not.
Fine. So you owe her $250. That's easy. What else?
It says right here, I will get my taxes back in about 2 weeks. It should be enough to mail your stuff. What do you want me to do with the stuff that you left with Maurice? Don't worry, I am going to send all that you left there.
What kind of stuff do you have?
My computer, my belongings, my
Don't take
purse.
my belongings.
Anything
Your computer.
and
Okay, my computer, our baby books.
There's no baby books.
Yes, there is. My kids' clothes. I have a leather jacket in there. Picture frames, beanie babies, sleeping bags, all sorts of things.
Okay. Did you send him any money to send you back that stuff?
No, he was supposed to send it with the money that he owes me.
Well, that's fine. You have all that stuff? It's
Oh,
all
yeah.
packed
Oh,
up?
yes.
And you owe her $250. Do you
Yes.
think it'll cost more than $250 to send it?
Far more.
How much?
It was $174 a box. She wants it insured and priority mail and everything else with it. It was basically going to round off to about $200 a box to mail
Your
her
Honor,
stuff.
when I...
Just a minute. How many boxes of stuff do you think you have?
2 boxes, about 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, stuffed full.
And how much do you think that that's going to cost?
About $200 a box to mail it.
So about $400.
About $400 total to mail it.
Do you want to spend that?
No, I went to the post office in Montana and I asked them how much it is, and they said $50 for 70 pounds.
Well, I'm not going to guess how much it is to mail all your stuff back. He's not responsible to you to mail all your stuff back.
He said right here that he will. So he's not responsible.
No, he's not responsible for paying for it. It's your stuff. You left it there.
He owes me the money. He was
Fine, you're not, Miss Kettleson. He owes you $250. What if it costs $500 to mail back your stuff?
It doesn't. I went to the post office and it cost $50 for 70 pounds. I made sure that those 2 boxes were less than 70 pounds.
How did you make sure of that?
Because I know how much I brought down in those boxes.
Miss Kettleson, you're going to have to make arrangements for payments. The stuff is all boxed. He's prepared to turn it over to you. You have to make arrangements to get it. That's your job. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good. In the meantime, he's going to give you the $250 that he owes you, and that may help to defray some of your costs.
He should also pay for the tickets, at least
I
from
don't believe so.
Montana to New York.
Oh, he's not paying for that at all. I just explained that to you.
Okay, then the hotel and stuff.
He's not paying for that either.
He
Salvation
should have
Army
to
and my
because
last
it
boss
was
paid
his
for this
fault that
hotel.
I had to leave. He said, come on down here and stay with me. You can stay with me until you get settled. And then he...
And then there was a fight.
Yes. And
it didn't work out. So you left. No. And evidently you left not under terrible circumstances.
Oh, yes, it was.
Well, you said the next day you were babysitting for his daughter.
2 days later.
2 days later, you were babysitting for his daughter, which is when you gave him Miss Kettleson, get over it. He doesn't pay for your airfare. He doesn't pay for your hotel. He pays you the money that he owes you, which is $250, and you make arrangements to get your stuff, which is boxed, period.
I have to pay $1,349 because for my airfare ticket from Montana to New York because of the way he was to me.
No, no, no.
Same
Yes.
No, Miss Kettleson.
$1,349 she
No,
could have rented a place to live in Montana.
Miss Kettleson, what if you decided to relocate to Paris? And the airfare to Paris is $5,000. You think you should pay $5,000?
If that's the case.
Bye. You count the suits likewise dismissed. It's nonsense.
Carl Blackman and his wife, Lori Jin Blackman, are suing former friend, 35-year-old salesman Chris Miller, and his friend, 26-year-old Mark Vaughn. The Blackmans claim they loaned Chris money to bring his girlfriend from the Philippines to the United States.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Blackman versus Miller Vaughn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Who is Mr. Miller?
I am.
Would you sit down, Mr. Vaughn, please? And is this your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you have a seat?
Thank you.
Mr. Blackman, this is an interesting case. I don't think I've ever tried one like this before. You knew the defendant.
I met him first time at our wedding, actually. He was a friend of a guest.
And according to your complaint, there came a time when you and the defendant arranged to have a young woman from the Philippines, who was, I believe, a cousin of your wife's,
Distant cousin, yes.
come to New York for the purposes of marrying him.
Yes, ma'am.
She came to the United States.
Yes, ma'am.
He didn't marry her.
No, ma'am, he did not.
And you want him to pay for all of the expenses that you incurred, which you say that he had agreed to pay. In addition, at some point, a check was given to you for $1,500, and then payment was stopped on that check, but that check was written by Mr. Vaughn at the defendant's request. So that's why he is a co-defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
But he's really a nominal co-defendant. Okay, so when was your wedding and when did you meet the defendant?
In February of '99, the defendant was at our wedding. A few days later, he came to a Valentine's dance party, and that's where I spoke to him about our site, FilipinoGirlsTours.com. I said,
No. Speak slowly,
Okay.
because we're missing. You had a website?
Yes, ma'am, a small business. I met my wife through Pen Pal Club, and when she came over, she goes, I have many friends that would like to come too, so we put up a free Pen Pal site where people could get free addresses and phone numbers, stuff like that, and correspond. I don't know if he first saw that site, or I really don't know, but he came to our wedding, and then at the party he was there. And I said, well, you know, we do have a cousin of hers that's real cute on our site. would you like to meet her? And he says, well, I'd be interested. So I gave him the contact information, the address, the phone number. She did not have email at the time. And from there, it progressed. They got to know each other well.
They got to know each other via mail.
Mail and phone, yes.
And
many,
phone.
Many phone calls.
Okay.
And he went over there on his own.
He went to the Philippines?
Yes.
And visited. That is correct. When did you go to the Philippines, sir?
It was April or May. I don't remember exactly what the date was.
Of 1999?
Yes.
Okay. And you went and you met this young lady. Go ahead.
Yes, when he returned, he relayed to me how happy he was, how he would treat her so nicely, that he really loved her. And he was very frustrated that they were never left alone this whole time. And in the Philippines, most girls are very chaperoned. This particular woman had never dated really in her life. Very, very sheltered. And I helped him with his paperwork to bring her over because we had just started our site and I wanted to get more experience in the fiancé visa part and what have you. So I did all his paperwork for him.
What's a fiancé visa?
In order to bring a girlfriend, fiancé to the United States from another country, you must file paperwork with our government saying that you met her, prove that you met her, and that it's a legitimate relationship and you want to marry her. And you bring her over, you do all this paperwork.
Do you have a copy of that application?
I do not have a copy of his, per se.
I need a copy of his.
I do not. I have the form, but I have all the financial responsibility forms that he signed.
Can I see that?
Yes, ma'am. Saying that he would be responsible for her as long as she was here. Okay. I've highlighted the...
Okay, and you signed this financial affidavit, sir, on the 31st of August, 1999. Is that right?
I'd have to see it.
Sure.
Yes.
Good. So you signed the financial affidavit in August of 1999, agreeing to be financially responsible for this young lady when she came to this country.
Right. It said that I would be responsible so that she wouldn't be a burden upon our state.
That's correct, but that's only one of the affidavits that you signed. That's why I read the second one very carefully, which is, the first one says that you agree that she will never become a public charge while she's here. But the second affidavit that you signed, sir, says that a plaintiff may seek specific performance of my support obligation, and you acknowledge that any federal, state, local, or private agency that pays any means-tested public benefit or benefit on behalf of the sponsored immigrants has standing to sue you to meet my financial obligations. Okay, I got it. Now, when did the young lady come here?
She arrived on Friday, the 28th or 29th of January, I believe. The wife and I actually picked her up at the airport because the defendant said he could not get off work to pick her up. So we drove to Atlanta from Asheville, a considerable distance, picked her up, brought her that evening, left him at his apartment, where I even helped him move to. That night, they were alone. It was Super Bowl weekend. That Sunday, they came over. The girl was very, very upset with herself, what have you. Mr. Miller had talked her into giving up something very precious to her, which was her virginity, which is something these girls really hold proper to them. Because he had spent so much money to bring her here and so much effort, she figured, well, he's going to marry me, it's okay. The way things worked out, she found out she did not know we had loaned him the money to bring her here because that wasn't...
Now tell me about that loan.
Mr. Miller was in the process of moving, and I had gotten to know him a little bit, doing his paperwork for him and what have you, and he seemed to be a very nice fellow. So I helped him move, brought his washing machines over to my house to store because he didn't have a place to put them, things like that. After he moved, we picked up the girl, brought her to his house and what have you.
Tell me about the money.
Oh, the money. During this move, he's saying he had put deposits down for this, for the phone, for the apartment and everything, and he was very low on money. And I figured the girl's a cousin of my wife, so I said, would you like to have a loan to bring her here? I could loan you the money for the plane ticket as long as it did not take too long to pay me back. And he said, oh, I could pay you back in 90 days, no problem. I just started a new job.
How much was the ticket?
The ticket itself was, I don't know, he sent the money to her. I gave him $675 cash.
Is that correct? That he gave you $675 in cash?
No.
He never gave you any money?
No.
He's lying, Your Honor.
Okay, so that's in dispute. $675 in cash you gave him.
Yes, ma'am, and I even asked my wife if I could take it out of our savings account. She's a joint member of that account, and she said yes, because it was for her cousin. They'd be fine.
Okay. Go ahead.
I had loaned him the money. I picked him up the day before she was to arrive. He called me and said, I can't get off work. Could you please pick her up? I said, sure, I'd be glad to. We went down, picked her up, brought her to the apartment that weekend.
Okay, then you told me about the problem.
Right.
When she came to your house. All right.
Right.
Did he ever tell you that this wasn't going to work out?
The first indication I had of any problem was that Thursday, he did not show up one night. He kept on showing up later each night, coming home, and Wednesday night he didn't show up at all. Thursday morning the girl called me, I picked her up, brought her home. That Thursday evening, he called me, he didn't have keys to get into the apartment. He said, oh, I had to spend all night in the hospital with my son last night, and he gave me this story. His son was real sick, and he stayed there, and so I met him at the apartment and told him how badly she was hurt. And he says, well, I love her, this is not going to happen. You know, let me get cleaned up, I'll come over. That was the last I saw him in person until our criminal court trial came up. He called me the next day and said...
What criminal court trial?
For the $1,500 check.
Oh, okay.
That was dismissed due to, it was a post-dated check.
Okay.
North Carolina laws.
When for the first time, I asked you, did he tell you that this was not going to work out?
He called me on the phone that week, I believe it was that Thursday evening, and said, I'm not going to marry her. And I said, well, why? And he says, well, that's personal, I'm not going to tell you. I've got to go out of town this following weekend. When I get back, I'll get with you. And he never did call back. Mr. Vaughn called me and said that he had a check that he had written to cover her expenses for her plane ticket, my loan, a small amount of living expenses until she went home. And I was to pick the check up at the apartment. Well, we didn't have a key. We couldn't get in.
Well, you must have said something to him about money. You owe me some money. You owe me the money that I gave you, $675,
Actually,
and the return, and her return flight as well.
Right. It was actually him that volunteered the money at first to pay for her plane ticket home, because he knows this is a responsibility that he signed, that he is responsible for this woman, and if they do not get married after 90 days, he has to return her. It's an agreement he's made with the U.S. government.
Okay.
So he was aware of his obligation.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carl and Lori Jen Blackman say former friend Chris Miller borrowed money to fly in his girlfriend from the Philippines. Chris says there was no agreement to pay the money back.
When did she go back to the Philippines?
It wasn't until September.
Why not?
Because, well, she was so ashamed of herself, and in the Philippines, and I do have evidence from doctors that treat women in the Philippines.
I'm not interested in that because it's really not germane. She's not here. She was, for emotional reasons, she didn't go back.
Right, and plus the check bounced. We could not get it to cover. 5 times I took it, it would not. Each time I took it to the bank itself, they said, I'm sorry, there's not enough funds, and then I ran it through my bank to have it stamped.
But that was $1,500, and that would have covered her return flight to the Philippines.
And my loan.
And your loan to him.
Yes, ma'am, and a small amount of living expenses for a week or two.
So the whole thing was $1,500. So how did $1,500 become $5,000 that you're suing him for?
Well, we never could cash the check. It was never any good. So she stayed with us. She was real ashamed and didn't want to return home, and she did not have the money to return home because the check was canceled. And I had told Mr. Vaughn about a week after the check, when I first tried to cash it, I said, well, why isn't there any money there? And he said, well, my wife wrote a check. It'll be good in a couple of days. And I said, well, yeah, I think Cheryl may be staying a while anyways because she's very afraid about going home.
Okay. I got it. So the rest of this money, $3,500, is for her living expenses.
Basically, and attorney's fees, and we had to buy her clothes. She had no clothing other than summer clothing, and this was middle of winter, so we had to buy her clothing.
Well, she should have gone home immediately.
With what money?
With the money that you would have lent her, and then sued them for the $1,500, and it would have been over with.
I don't have thousands of dollars in the bank.
This isn't fair. We're not talking thousands. We're talking about a return airplane ticket.
But it was Mr. Miller's responsibility to return her.
How much was the return air ticket?
When I returned her, it was $640, and it was during the low time of year. In January, it's a high travel time. It could be as much as $1,000 or more.
All right, Mr. Miller, let's hear it.
Well, went over there, met her, did all the paperwork and everything to bring her over here.
Paperwork.
Then in December, when I talked to her, I told her, I said, you know, I don't think it's going to work.
You mean December before she got here?
Right.
Why did you tell her that in December?
Well, I had met my wife. We had dated, I guess it was about 8 or 9 years ago. And we had met, and we started seeing each other. And that's when I told her, I told Cheryl, I said, you know, it's just not going to work.
So you told the young lady that you didn't think it was going to work out. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What happened next?
She came here. Carl picked her up at the airport.
Well, when you told her in December that it wasn't going to work out, she hadn't been here yet. Why didn't you cancel these papers?
I didn't know what, she was already in Manila. I didn't know what to do.
You mean she had traveled to Manila in order to come here?
Yeah, you have to go to Manila. You have to go to the embassy in order to come to the United States.
The interview
so she had already done the legwork there and was on her way here, and they had been using your papers to process her.
Right.
Okay. So you knew she was going to come?
Right.
In January.
Well, I told her not to come. She came anyway. Carl brought her to the apartment. I told her, I said, look, you know, it's just not going to work out. I think it was like two or three nights I stayed there, and I think that was it.
Why did you have
When
sex?
Shh, don't speak. Mr. Miller, when she stayed at your apartment for 2 or 3 nights, did you share a room together?
Yes,
Why?
because there's only bed. I didn't have a couch or anything. I just moved.
So you shared a bed together?
Yes.
While he was living with the other girl.
Shh. Mr. Blackman, he
Sorry.
was very quiet. You have to be very quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
What arrangements did you make to get her a return ticket to go home?
When me and her had split up, or she had left, went to Carl's house.
That was just a few days later.
Right. Carl had went around telling everybody he was going to have me for abandonment, have me put in prison, $12,000 fine.
Prove it.
Don't know.
Mr.
Don't
Blackman,
know if he can
this
or
is
not.
the last time I say that to you, sir. The next time I dismiss your case. Do you understand? I control it here.
Yes, ma'am.
It goes in an order. You, then him. Then if I have any questions. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you used to controlling things?
Not really.
Uh-huh. Does your husband like to control things?
She wears the pants.
What?
She wears the pants.
I somehow doubt that. Go ahead.
So once I heard what he was trying to do, I didn't know what to do, so I called my congressman. They put me in touch with liaisons. I told her what was going on. I said, you know, I need to stop the fiancé visa. She said, okay. Well, I talked to Carl. He said, look, he said, you pay $1,500. It'll all be said and done. It'll be over with. I said, okay, fine. It'll be done. I'd closed out my account. Mark Vaughn, he was a good friend of mine. I said, you mind writing a check? I said, here's the money. He said, no, no problem. Gave him $1,500. Well, Carl Blackman, in the meantime, had called and told her he was going to sue me, that I was going to prison, that on the documentation it says that I am liable for everything. Well, told him no, he's not. He offered to give you the money to send her back. You told him no. You've told me no, that you're not going to send her back, and there's nothing you can do to him. So then that's when he tried to go to court, get us on a criminal offense, and then we're here.
So that you stopped payment on the check that you had given him?
Yes.
That's what happened.
Yes.
But you understand that you owe him this money.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, you do. And for no other reason, Mr. Miller, than because of your actions, this young lady traveled from the Philippines to the United States. Now, you may have told her a week or two before she got on that plane, while she had traveled to Manila, according to you, to begin this process, that it wasn't going to work out. And if it wasn't going to work out, then what you do when Mr. Blackman brings her to your home is put her in the car and you say, I'm bringing you back to Mr. Blackman's house. I told you this wasn't going to work out. You don't take her to your bed for a few nights and then return her. Bad sportsmanship. Not moral conduct. You don't do a test run with somebody that you know is not going to be a permanent part of your life, especially under the circumstances where you met her in the Philippines, which was on her turf. According to what the plaintiff tells me, which I believe, one of the frustrations that you had is that you were not alone very much because of her strict upbringing in her family. So she comes to a strange place, she comes to a strange home, she comes to a person that she's known for, what, a week or two? Is that all you knew her? I mean, other than the mail and the telephone calls.
I was over there about four or 5 days.
So it was less than a week.
Mm-hmm.
And she's vulnerable because she's here. She doesn't know anybody. I don't know how her English is, but she's certainly very vulnerable. And you took advantage of that. Bad show. And I can understand when Mr. Blackman says that there was an embarrassment that she had in going home right away. And she had to emotionally prepare herself to go home because she was going home different from the way she came. How old was she?
25.
And how old are you?
I just turned 35.
And you have a child.
Yes.
I see that from here. Were you married before?
Yes.
Once before?
Twice.
So you've been around the flagpole a couple of times,
I
as
guess you could
opposed
say
to this
that.
young lady.
I don't know if she had or hadn't. I would say not.
The only other expense that I haven't addressed is your attorney's fees. Now, you said you had attorney's fees.
Yes, we tried to change her visa so she could stay here without going
That's
home.
not his problem.
Yes.
That's your problem. That's her cousin. If you tried to change her visa,
Yes, ma'am.
then you're doing that out of the goodness of your heart. That has nothing to do with his relationship with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I certainly believe that you are entitled to be reimbursed for certain of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
And certainly for the $1,500 plus your airfare. I believe that you did provide airfare both ways for this young lady. And I believe that she probably needed a period of adjustment before she went back.
Yes, ma'am.
Not she came 1 week, she goes back the next. Kind of embarrassing. But I would say, Mr. Blackman, that she's not here. I cannot inquire of her. But I would say a month or so should have been sufficient time for her to get over this and to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Did she stay with you the entire time?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay. So on your claim, Mr. Blackman, I'm awarding you $2,500.
Thank you.
The $1,500 that he was supposed to have given you, plus $1,000 a month for the month that I believe would have been sufficient time for her to prepare herself to go home. So on your claim, sir, I am awarding you $2,500.
Thank you.
Didn't do the right thing, sir. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Suing his ex-fiancée, 28-year-old retail manager Susan Montgomery, for unauthorized charges on his credit card. Susan is countersuing for an assault.
Order. Come to order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 193 on the calendar in the matter of Jefferson versus Montgomery. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Mr. Jefferson, you and the defendant, according to your complaint, have had a long-term relationship and you have a child
Yes.
together. It is your claim that a couple of years ago, you had ordered a credit card in your name and the defendant's name. You claim that she took that credit card without your permission. And when you separated, you got a bill.
I got a card. I got the change of address card.
Well, you made a phone call and you found out that there were $6,000 worth of charges placed on that credit card. And you want her to pay those charges.
Correct.
The defendant says that you gave her the credit card, that you had an off-again, on-again relationship, and when you were on again, you paid the bill, and aside from that, you hadn't paid child support when you were separated. She has a counterclaim for some stuff that she's going to tell me about. So that's what this case is about.
Okay.
When did you start to live together?
In New York, we did it 3 times.
Okay, when was the first time? Year, just give me the year.
I would say maybe the end of 96 or beginning of 97.
And when did you order this credit card?
This was February 99.
And what did you do with the credit cards when you got them?
I have a big bin that I keep all my bills in, and I made another folder and I put it in the bin.
You never personally handed it to her?
No, I didn't even activate it.
When, for the first time, did you ascertain that she had used the credit card?
She moved out on September 21st, 1999, went back to Wisconsin.
And you were living where at the time?
Still in New York City. She went back to Wisconsin, and a couple of weeks later, I got a postcard from the credit card company saying that I changed my address to a Wisconsin P.O. box, something in Wisconsin. So I called the credit card company, and I said, I didn't change the address. They said, yes, you did, and you have a balance of so-and-so. I said, no, I don't. She's like, yes, you did, and she started listing the charges on there, beginning from New York. One was a balance transfer of $1,600, and the rest and some more were from her trip from New York. She drove from New York to Wisconsin.
Now, was this an amicable breakup?
Yeah, I didn't want her to leave, and I asked not to leave, and I went to work, and she decided still to leave.
So she left without you knowing that she was leaving on
No,
that
I
day?
knew there was a possibility that she was leaving. We went to dinner the night before, and I asked her not to leave, and it was up in the air. I went to work, came back, and she had followed through and left.
Okay. Now, do you have a copy of that bill?
I have a copy of the first bill
Yeah, I'd like
with
to see
the
it.
address on it.
While he's looking for that, Miss Montgomery, were you working at the time you were living together?
No, I had only been, at that time, I was only in New York for a couple months, and I was taking care of our daughter.
So you weren't working?
Right.
She was working part-time as a nanny or whatever, full-time, part-time, whatever, taking care of someone's child.
In the house?
No, at their house.
With your daughter?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you were working part-time?
Yeah, it was like once a week for a couple hours, once in a while.
Now, what is this balance transfer of $1,600? That was made in August.
It was from one of my credit cards that I had used on our daughter. He wasn't paying child support at the time.
I'm talking about August.
Right.
You left in September.
Right.
You were living together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I had the card for a while.
But
and
this
I
was
did not steal it from him.
We're talking about a balance transfer from another card that you had over to this card.
Right.
Was the other card that you had in your name?
Yes.
Well, had you discussed transferring the balance of $1,600 to this card? Well, why did you do that?
Because I had used that to fly out there and to support my daughter, and I needed to support my daughter again, so that's what I had done. I closed out that other credit card. And
That was your credit card?
Right.
Well, did you intend to make payments on this credit card?
Yes, and I was.
Even though it was in his name?
The card was in my name. He
In
got
your
the
name,
card
but
from
he
me.
was primarily responsible for it.
Right.
Now, you tell me your version of how you came into possession of this credit card.
This is the second card he had gotten me, and the card was laying next to his computer with my name on it, and I took it in use of our daughter, and he was not paying child support at the time.
Don't tell me he wasn't paying child support at the time. That
Okay.
I'm not interested in.
And I just took the card and
I'm
used it.
interested in it, but not interested in it right now. Did you tell him, pay careful attention, that you had taken it at the time?
No.
When for the first time did you tell him that you had taken this credit card?
No.
I said when for the first time?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You never did? You didn't tell him that you had taken it?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Now, you were making regular payments on this credit card?
Yes.
Until when?
Probably until about June.
June of 2000?
And then he started making the payments, correct.
Okay, so you were making the payments on the card because you knew it was your responsibility. You stopped in June. Tell me why.
For a lot of different reasons. He wasn't supportive of me and my daughter. He was verbally and emotionally abusive to us. And I kind of decided if I'm not going to get married and you're the one who got this card, there's no point in me paying it. He had written a notary public letter to the child support worker in Wisconsin so that he wouldn't have to pay child support anymore. He had stated to them that he didn't want to, since he was paying rent, he didn't really have to pay anything else for Jasmine.
You were living together?
Mm-hmm.
Not interested in that. How were you supporting yourself then?
I had gotten a job.
Fine. You had gotten a job. You were living together as a couple with your child, so why should he be paying child support?
He was ordered by the state to pay it anyways because he owed arrears and back child support.
Let me explain. One thing has nothing to do with another.
Right.
Now, what were the total charges on the account?
I think towards the end it ended up being like $5,000. I mean, maybe a little under, but then interest was attached.
The largest balance I have is $6,149.88.
Okay. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Tell me what that's about.
Domestic violence case that we had gone through. The last one was in April of last year on the 22nd. And he had hit me in front of our daughter. And I had lost my job over it. And that's part of the reason.
How did you lose your job?
I came to work with bruises, and they told me that they didn't want me looking unhappy anymore. And because I was a receptionist at the time, they told me that when the customers come in, I'm the first person that they look at, and I wasn't looking good anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sean Jefferson says his ex-fiancée, Susan Montgomery, made charges on his credit card without his permission. Susan says Sean is angry because she had him arrested for domestic violence.
Tell me about this assault. Did you file a police report?
Yes, I did.
Do you have it?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what happened on the 28th of April, or the 20...
The 22nd is the actual incident. He had talked about killing himself that day, and he had just dropped off my daughter, and I was worried about him. We had been through a lot with each other, so I was concerned. I'd called him several times. He wasn't answering the phone, so I came over to his house. He opened the door. My daughter went in, of course, and he had said that I couldn't be there right now, that it was a bad time, and I just said, I want to talk to you. I want to make sure that you're okay. And before you know it, one thing led to another. He started pushing me out of the house, shoving me up against the wall. My daughter was standing at the door, screaming and yelling, "Stop hurting my mommy." And when I went back in to call 911, he took the phone away from me.
Why didn't you just leave?
Because my daughter was screaming bloody murder, and he was like standing at the door, and I was frightened of him.
Well, but he wanted you to leave.
Oh, I guess as far as me not leaving the first time, I was concerned. I didn't understand what was going on. I'd been with this person for 7 years, so there was a lot entailed, you know.
Do you have photographs? They said in the
Yes.
report that they took photographs. I'd like to see them.
Most of them are from the police department. I've been part of a domestic violence group ever since then, and my daughter's been going to counseling over it.
I see some very faint black and blue marks.
That was a week after it happened.
Oh, well, that's what I see on,
Yeah.
on these things. There any marks on your face?
No.
No. I didn't see any.
No.
There are a couple of small black and blue marks on your arms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how that would cause you to lose your job.
I was wearing, in fact, I wore this dress one of the weeks that I was wearing it, and you could see the bruises on my arms. I was crying at work all the time. I wasn't myself.
From what you described to me, there was something visible that people could see as a result of which you lost your job as a receptionist?
Well, there were several different reasons why she had said, you know, with the police calling there, with me not being happy anymore.
Well, you know, you don't get paid for not being happy, and I never condone somebody putting their hands on somebody else. But, you know, you have to be a smart lady. You've been together with him for 7 years. Has he put his hands on you before?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Mm-hmm. Did you ever put your hands on him?
No.
Never.
I mean, we've wrestled with each other as far as, like, fighting over something, but...
Fighting over something, not fun fighting.
Right.
Not fun fighting. So you have put your hands on each other?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And despite the fact that this has been a tumultuous relationship, you keep getting back together again, right?
Were we getting back together?
No. Despite the fact that it had been a tumultuous relationship, you kept getting back together. Okay, I'm just dealing with each part of your counterclaim. One of the part of your counterclaim is you lost your job because of this assault.
Right.
And I've examined the pictures, and I don't see that that supports that part of your counterclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you also have a counterclaim for daycare expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Let me hear about that.
We had agreed to pay every other week since we moved here, and he had stopped paying. After this whole incident, he had stopped paying. He did give me $200 to go towards it, but the bill was like $800. I paid what I could. Since I had lost my job, I didn't have any income, and then I put the $200 towards it, and the balance is $426.
Was that before or after a child support order was entered against him?
It was during.
It was during?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a copy of that child support order? Does anybody have a copy of it?
I have the bill they send me every month. I have the bill they send me every month.
Well, what are you supposed to pay in child support, sir?
$730.
Was that after a hearing?
When the order was done, I lived in New York, so I never got to say anything. I just got the.
Do you pay the
$730
$730
it comes out
a
of my
month?
check. Yes, it does.
It's garnished, so your wages are attached.
Yep.
Since when?
Since it started, I think June 1st.
June 1st
is when they started taking out. It's $860 plus $50 arrears. I'm sorry, $680. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. That started to come out of your pay in June.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
My May 30th check, yes.
Now, when did you make this arrangement to pay half of the child care?
We have been doing it the whole time. I have the checks where I did pay.
The child care?
Yep.
Do you still pay that?
No. She took her out of school like May 1st. Or something like that. And the $200 was because she was behind in paying. But while my daughter went to that school, every other week I gave the check.
Let me see.
Well, they had called me and said that Scene hadn't paid the last time, and that if I wasn't going to have it paid for, I had to take her out of there.
I think it goes from back to the most recent.
This is KinderCare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these payments were pretty regular. Twice a month, is that what you were saying?
Every other week.
Well, we had to pay every week. He paid every other week.
Some of them are me covering for her when she didn't have the money.
What's the other part of your counterclaim, Ms. Montgomery?
The co-payments for my daughter's therapy. Me and my daughter are going to counseling this summer.
This past summer?
Mm-hmm.
After June?
After the incident in April.
Okay. When was the child support hearing?
We didn't have a hearing. They just started taking it from his check.
I don't see a copy of the child support order. Neither one of you have a copy of the child support order, but usually when there's...
This is the original from 1997.
I'd like to see it. Well, things have changed since 1997.
Yeah, because he was supposed to pay the whole time, and he had moved and...
Well, you were back together part of that time.
Right.
I mean, that's hard.
When I stopped doing it.
That's hard for them to keep track of these things, you know, when you on again, off again. Meanwhile, he's got this child support order that's building up. Who maintains health insurance for the child?
I do.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
$240 a month.
I pay the co-payments and any other separate bills that she has.
Do you have medical coverage now for the child?
No.
All right, well, this order says both parties shall maintain the child as a covered dependent. So you don't do that?
No, because we were living with each other at the time.
Right. But he does?
Right.
Right.
How much is deducted from your check for the child's policy?
Well, for me, it would be like $60. And with a family, it's $240.
And the family is just the child?
It's just her, yeah.
$240 a month?
A month, yes.
I think he's doing all right, Miss Montgomery. I think he's paying a reasonable amount of money. How much do you earn every year, sir?
$50,000.
Okay.
That's from his first job. He does have a second job, too.
No.
Well, how many children do you have?
One. That's it.
How many jobs do you have?
I have one, and I was going to school full-time.
Okay, well, he has 2 jobs. When I have more money, he'd get 2 jobs. That's what you do.
Well, he was doing it because he said that he had to pay too much in child support, and I was robbing him But I think that Jasmine's his responsibility, so.
No, Jasmine is both of your
Oh,
responsibility.
yeah, and she lives with me.
That doesn't make any difference.
I take care of her all the time, and I never complain about it.
Jasmine is the financial responsibility of both people. He pays $730 a month child support. He pays an additional $180 a month in order to maintain health insurance coverage, medical, dental, vision, pursuant to this order, right?
Yes.
Good. Take care of the rest. If you need 2 jobs, get 2 jobs. Listen, this is a very gender-neutral time we're living in. That means that no mother or father has the primary financial support of a child. Both people do. You and him. So if there is a copay, which is not discussed here, pay it.
I do.
Because good. Well, you can't counterclaim for that if you're paying it. That's part of your counterclaim. You said you're suing for the copay.
That's because the psychology appointments were not covered under his health insurance. I took her to a separate place.
Good, then you should. You chose a separate place? You chose
Right.
another place? Pay for it.
I did.
Good. And why are you bothering me with it? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now.
Can I?
What?
About her losing her jobs. The reason why the reason why I had a problem with our relationship, us being together, is because she couldn't keep a job. I moved there in March, and she decided to move out in, I'll say, the end of December because we weren't getting married. I'm not getting married because of the simple fact that I can't talk to her about anything financially, where she has to take responsibility. She can't hold down a job. She's had between that March and December, she had 3 different jobs. 1, she left because she was in danger of having to reapply for a job. 2, she got fired from. This was before anything went on. So from that time, from December until I think she got a new job in maybe February, and every time in between jobs, it's a month off, and I'm holding everything down financially. And it's no big deal to her.
Now, how much do you owe her in child support?
In child support, $2,000 from before, most of it's interest from before. And I owe $8,000 for the birth of my daughter, and I owe welfare about $3,000.
You weren't together when the child was born?
She had moved to Wisconsin, and I came out there. The pregnancy was induced, and I flew out there, and it was sort of scheduled for me to be there.
Did you pay any money when the child was born?
I used to send her about $300 a month,
That was
but it
a
wasn't
year
enough.
later. It was a year when
Well,
Jasmine
who was
was a year
supporting
old.
you when you were pregnant and had the baby?
I was on welfare until I was 9 months pregnant, and then I supported myself afterwards.
Okay, so
I worked 3 jobs while I was pregnant.
The government paid for the child's birth.
Oh, the birth, correct.
The birth, correct.
No.
I was on
I'm paying. I have to pay for it.
But at that time.
At that time, yes.
Now
yes.
you have to reimburse them.
Yeah.
Well, that's the law, sir.
I have no problem. I'm not complaining about that.
Can't get around that.
I'm not
In any
complaining
event,
about
Ms.
that.
Montgomery, these are your bills. He did not give you the credit card as you indicated. You took the credit card. You took the credit card. You took it without his permission. Then you went and transferred a balance that was on a credit card that was solely your responsibility onto this credit card.
And I have called the credit card company
care
several
whether-
times, and it's at a 0 balance, and they said I didn't owe anything on it, and he did call them and say that he was responsible for the card.
Just a second, but he's not responsible for the card. You're responsible for the card. And if he paid off your debt because there's a 0 balance now, it doesn't mean anything. He paid it off because he didn't want to continue to pay interest at 19 or 20%. He figured, let me get rid of this, and then I'll go after her.
I transferred to another card because just for that reason, I was getting nowhere, paying $120 a month, and I was only paying $13 toward the
Because
principal.
it was on his credit, not yours. So you have to pay him the money you owe him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, and you counterclaim.
9-year-old Robin Scherzer, a woman he met while she was performing as an exotic dancer. Joseph claims he loaned Robin money to purchase a car and expected to be paid back. Robin says the car was a gift and she owes Joseph nothing.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 181 in the matter of Strews versus Scherzer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Sir, you allege in your complaint that you made a loan to the defendant of $1,600 for the purpose of buying a used car.
Yes, Your Honor.
She says it was a gift.
She's
So
wrong,
why
Your
don't you tell me what prompted you to lend this young woman $1,600 to buy a car?
Well, Your Honor, I met the defendant in June. I think you've read the statement, and I have a little problem with wanting to help girls out, and I admit that, but she had her car repossessed by her mother earlier, and she wanted to get out of the job that she was doing at the time that I met her, so she needed an automobile to gain employment as a personal assistant. So at the time, I had enough money, and we were becoming friends and casually dating. So I offered to loan her the $1,600.
What did you say? Tell me exactly what you said and what she said.
I told her that I had the money and that I would help her with the purchase of the car. She told me that she insisted that she would pay me in October for whatever the loan for the car was. And I discussed the price with her. I said, what can you afford? Anywhere from $1,000, $2,000. We were looking at cars. And like I said, we found a car through a friend of mine that is an automobile broker, and she was pleased with the car that we had found. And
what kind of car was it?
It was a 1987 Audi 4000, Your Honor.
Okay, so you both went and saw the car together.
Yes, we did. We looked at 2 cars previous to that, and Robin was not happy with those cars, so I asked my friend to...
this is the friend?
This is the friend, Miss Moore. And I asked her to keep looking for a car that would be suitable for Robin, and when we found a car, we went test drove it, and Robin said that it'd be a suitable car for her.
So you paid for it?
Yes, I did. I have a bill of sale right here, Your Honor. I have a check receipt here. I've got everything right here.
I'd like to see your file.
Okay.
So then what happened?
Can I add something else,
Sure.
Your Honor? Okay, I am just asking for the $1,600. I'm not asking for this for the money. I'm asking it for the purpose of that this woman, I went out of my way to help her. I didn't expect anything in return from her. But after I had purchased the car, she disappeared. For 7 days, I had it set up that she could have insurance through the insurance man that insures my car. Miss Moore was going to get her to register the car. She was gone for 7 days. I asked her, I said, Robin, you need to take care of these things. She said, well, I want to get a car stereo. I said, listen, young lady, in order for you to operate a motor vehicle, you've got to take care of these things. I'd already had it set up. She got really mad at me. She said she wouldn't talk to me. I said, fine. I said, just take care of the stuff. When I spoke to her again, I said, have you taken care of it? She said, no. She said, you're being mean to me, and I don't want to speak to you anymore. I said, that's fine. I just need you to take care of this stuff. She never registered the car, and as far as I know right now, I don't know what she's doing with it.
Okay. Ms. Scherzer?
Yes, Your Honor.
I understand.
Your Honor, can I also tell you that, in here I have other checks that I wrote for a sofa that I purchased for her that I didn't expect anything. Also her rent that I didn't expect anything. And, it's like, one more time, it's like my friends have told me not to do this. I'm attracted to women who work in the...
Mr. Strews?
Yes.
You say she owes you $1,600. Can I hear why she thinks that this was a gift?
Yes, I would love to hear that, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I told him not to buy me a car because I knew that there would be something else expected, something more.
You mean something physical?
Yes. And, as far as the sofa, I didn't even know he was going to go pay for that. The furniture store called me and said, your couch has been paid for. We'd like to deliver it. Can you call us and let us know when? I don't feel that I owe him any money at all. I told him that I was seeing someone. I told him that he could not expect anything from me, nothing. And he said that was fine. He understood. If anything, he would just like to maybe be able to spend some time with me.
Where's the car?
The car is at my house.
Where's the sofa?
At my house.
Miss Scherzer?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Not while I'm getting ready to talk, sir.
Excuse me.
If you think that I believe that you're a nice young woman, you're mistaken. You're a taker. Because if what you just said to me is true, that you didn't want to accept any gifts from him because you knew that there were strings attached. Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
Get it out of your mouth.
Okay. Your Honor?
I'm not finished.
Okay.
If somebody like this gentleman has a problem because he is generous to a fault with young women and he expects something in return, then a nice young woman
Strippers.
would say, I'm not speaking to you.
I'm sorry.
Then a nice young woman who cared about doing the right thing would have said to the furniture store, please, I don't have the money for the sofa. Return the money to the person who paid it, and when I can afford to pick up the sofa, I will pick it up. And a nice woman would have said, not only did I tell you I don't want your help with a car, but I'm not accepting a car from you because I don't want any strings attached. You, on the other hand, madam, accepted all these things.
Yes, I did.
That's
funny
that's amoral, madam. It's cheapening yourself. It's cheapening yourself. If you knew in your head that he expected something from you in exchange for these gifts, and you were not prepared to give it to him, right?
Correct.
Then you're a tease. Did you ever hear that expression?
Did you ever?
Madam, did you ever hear that expression?
Your Honor,
yeah.
He would stand at my door and force me to kiss him goodbye. I never told him that there was anything that he could expect from me at all.
Miss Scherzer?
Ever.
Miss Scherzer, are you not following what I'm saying to you, madam? I mean, are you really that thick?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Obviously, she's very angry. She thinks that I'm like a desperate man, but, you know, I've got two women with me right here, you know? It's like, how desperate could I be?
And later today,
I didn't see a naked woman. If I did, I'd sure as hell remember it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Scherzer says when Joseph Strews bought her a car, he called it a gift. But now that their friendship is over, he wants to be compensated.
When you tease someone, that means you hold a carrot in front of them like this. Okay? And you say, maybe you can have it, maybe you can't.
No.
Now, if you are not, however, put your hand down. Don't you know when to shut up? If, however, you are an honest person, you say, I want nothing to do with you, sir. I want you to take your gifts. I want you to take your money. I want you to take your sofas and your rent money and your cars and everything else. I want you to leave me alone. And if you don't leave me alone, because I'm not interested in you, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to get a restraining order so that you don't come to my door anymore. You, on the other hand, were dishonest with him. I find that to be absolutely immoral. You got it?
Yes.
Good. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Don't get mad, sweetheart.
No,
I'm not mad at you.
I'm not mad at all.
You're very mad.
No.
You're lying about me up there.
No, I think you're a joke.
You're calling me, you're calling me a desperate man. Do I look like a desperate man? I don't have any problem with women. I met her through an agency that she strips. She did. And
No.
I don't blame her. I don't think there's anything wrong with girls that
Why were you
strip.
calling that agency?
It's like,
do you have to call
we won't
people?
go into,
Do you have to call people to get them to come to your house to do that?
honey,
Is that how desperate you are?
You're not bothering me by this. It's an expensive lesson, but I still date strippers.
And now the next case.
Party's on Miguel versus Parker. Step forward, please.
Rosalinda San Miguel is suing her exterminator, Brandon Parker, because she claims he entered her apartment without knocking and saw her in the nude. She's suing for mental anguish.
All right. You're in the shower.
I was getting ready to take a shower.
And you heard a knocking on your door?
Yes.
What did you do?
I went to my son's bedroom to look through the window to see who it was.
And who was it?
It was a pest control man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pest control.
Yes.
An exterminator.
Right.
Correct.
Of bugs.
Excuse me?
Of bugs.
Bugs, anything?
Anything. And so what did you do?
When I seen that it was him, I ignored it because I hadn't ordered no services for that day. So as I proceeded to go down the hallway to go back into the bathroom, I saw like a light in my living room. And when I went in there, he was in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time when I went in there, I was naked.
When and where?
Into the living room because I had removed all my clothing already when I was getting ready for my shower.
So you're suing him for all kinds of pain, suffering, and distress because he let himself into your apartment and saw you naked. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Mr. Parker.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to this apartment complex for my first time. We had just gotten the account, and they gave me a sheet of paper of a list of apartments to do. And they told me to pick 5 apartments out of this, about 20 apartments on there to do, so I went about doing that.
How did you get into these 5 apartments? So you picked 5 apartments?
Right.
How did you get into these 5 apartments?
The management sent a maintenance person with me, plus they gave me a key. Halfway through doing these apartments, the maintenance person left. So I chose her apartment was one of the last ones I was to do, and I went to her door, I knocked, and I knocked, and I knocked. No one would answer the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I assumed the apartment was empty, and I was to go in there, do my business, and get out and get gone. So I unlocked the door, opened the door, said pest control. I yelled it 3 times, and then about after the 3rd time, she came through the hallway. She was not naked.
She was?
She was not naked.
What was she wearing?
She had a long T-shirt on and what appeared to be shorts. And as I was trying to understand her, what she was trying to say to me, she was pushing me out the door. I was trying to explain to her what I was to do, and it came out to be that I had mistaken her apartment for another one that was in the same area.
Let me understand this. Was her apartment number on this list that you got?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
I also have a copy of the work order log. I had order for services 6/20/97, and it specifically says spiders outside only.
Miss Miguel, the problem is, when I read your complaint and I read his answer, it appears to me that this gentleman was told that your apartment was one of those apartments that was to be serviced that day. Do you understand?
Yes.
So my question is, if that is true, then you are suing the wrong person. You should be suing your management company, the people who told him to go into your apartment. What are you suing him for?
Correct.
He was following instructions.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I just felt I was very violated. I really was. I can understand a mistake, like I've said, but when you're asked to leave, you are to leave.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rosalinda San Miguel is suing her exterminator, Brandon Parker, because she claims he entered her apartment without knocking and saw her in the nude. She's suing for mental anguish.
On this work order log, Your Honor, it states the date of services that were supposed to be done that day.
You mean this is the work order log that he had?
This is the work order log that my management had.
Not that your management. I want to see the one that he had.
It's
so
the same
I
one.
will. What?
It's
the
the
same
same
thing?
one, Your Honor.
Let me see.
The one highlighted is my apartment, Your Honor.
Okay. President. Sir, I'd like you to look at this. This is what your employer submitted.
Right.
I'd like you to take a look at that piece of paper, please. And I have a copy of it. Does it not indicate that her apartment was only to be serviced outside?
Yes, that's what I'm saying is on the line above it, it says roaches. Whenever I went to do that, I was a busy day, and I had misread the line above it on what I was spraying for.
No, you didn't tell me that before, sir.
Well, I should have. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't tell me that before. Before you told me that you would receive a list, you went into the list, and it turned out to be...
This is what I was received.
So you went into the wrong apartment.
Right.
You, the management company didn't tell you to go into that apartment. You went into the wrong apartment.
They told me to pick 5 apartments from this whole sheet.
Right, but
They
her
didn't.
apartment says spiders outside.
Right.
So what'd you go inside for?
Because I misread the line above
Because you
it.
made a...
Mistake.
Okay. That's simple.
Right.
Now, you made a mistake. So you're not suing his boss, who clearly has deep pockets, much deeper pockets, because you could have. You understand that.
Yes.
That was your mistake.
Yes,
He made a mistake. Now, is this a $5,000 mistake? Because that's what you're suing for. You're going to have to explain to me why this was a $5,000 mistake, Miss Miguel, because I can see an apology and some sort of minimal compensation, but quite frankly, I don't see where this mistake, and it was clearly an honest mistake, is worth anywhere near $5,000.
Your Honor, we're all human. I know we all make mistakes, and I mean, my heart's not that cold, you know, to say, okay, you made a mistake. But when he went in, and I told him, what are you doing in here? He told me that he had a work order, you know, to spray for roaches. I go, I don't have roaches. You need to leave. He told me, no, you signed a waiver with your manager that I can come in here. And I told him, I never did no such thing. I asked him to leave about 3 or 4 times, Your Honor, and he would not leave. I had to take the master keys myself from the lock, and I threw them and I shoved them out my door. And I told him, I will meet you in my manager's office, because he refused to leave my home. I told him, I live here, and I'm telling you to leave, and he wouldn't leave.
Well, you understand, Miss Miguel, that he honestly believed that he had a work order to do your apartment. You understand that? I mean, he wasn't making that up. He honestly believed that he had a work order. He misread a line. How many times did she ask you to leave, sir?
As far as I remember, I heard maybe once or twice.
Well, why didn't you leave right away?
Because I was trying to understand what she was wanting me to do.
She wanted you to leave.
Yes, I understand that, but she was speaking so fast, I was having trouble understanding her.
How long have you been working for this exterminating company, sir?
Approximately 5 to 6 months.
How much do you earn a day?
About $50 a day.
You have family?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of family do you have?
I have a wife and a young child.
How old's your child?
He's going to be a year in September.
How much money do you bring home a week?
Approximately $200.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, it is.
Doesn't sound like a lot of money.
It's not.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Now, he makes $50 a day. He. The exterminating company, they make probably a lot more than $50 a day, right?
Yes, we do.
But you didn't sue them. You sued him. I think he made an honest mistake. I think he probably didn't act appropriately right away because he couldn't understand you. You were very upset. Should have left right away when she told you to leave.
Yes, I understand that.
You understand that?
Yes.
It's going to cost you 2 days' pay. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy, 5-year-old student Marcus Bunch says he was punched and injured by bouncers at the Cowboy Boogie Company. He wants the owner, Jack Wade, to pay his medical bills.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 199 on the calendar in the matter of Bunch versus the Cowboy Boogie Company. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, gentlemen.
Mr. Bunch.
Yes.
And you are, sir?
Mr. Wade.
Shh. Mr. Wade, you are the owner of this club?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Mr. Bunch, your papers indicate that you were assaulted by Mr. Wade's employees while you were a patron at the club.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true.
Want to tell me what happened, sir?
Me and a bunch of friends went that night to take some dance lessons to have a good time at the club. And
is this a dance club?
Yes, it is.
And we took the lessons, and afterwards we were dancing, and a good song came on, and we decided that we were going to dance with the rest of the customers that were up on a stage or a platform area. And when we got up there, me and my friend John, we danced for about a half of the song. And at that point, one of the bouncers came up and told us that we had to get down. So we did. And we asked him, why could the rest of the people dance up there if we couldn't? And he said, simply because they're girls. And John protested. He said, well, that's not fair. You know, in our society, it's supposed to be equal. If they can dance there, we should be allowed to also.
So there were only girls up on the platform?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So he said if he didn't like it, take it up with the management or get the heck out of the place. And we turned around and we started to walk away. And I said, all right, Haas. And that was probably a mistake. I called the guy Haas. But I don't think that was a very harsh thing to call him. And we walked away and we went back to our table. And at that point, he said, all right, you guys are out of here. And he turned around and he walked away.
So we just kept going back to our table, and we sat down, and we were with the rest of our friends. And he came back instantly with a bunch of guys wearing red shirts that said Cowboy Boogie Company, and he grabbed me briskly and picked me off of my bar stool and started escorting me out of the establishment. And I went peacefully, and in front of me was John, carried hog-tied, and they were slamming him around, running him out the front door, knocking over some of the other customers that were in the place, and they threw him out the front door. At that point, we were underneath the umbrella in front of the establishment, and we walked past that, and we were actually in the parking lot now. And John turned around and said, "I want my cowboy hat." And
This is John.
This is John.
May I say something?
Not yet.
That night, he had just purchased a cowboy hat from this establishment, and he lost it that night.
Okay.
So he was upset. They didn't want to let him go back in the club to get the hat, and they were arguing, exchanging words at each other. And at this point, to remind you, we were past the umbrella out in the parking lot. At that point, one of the bouncers, I believe it's this guy here.
Which one, in the red shirt?
In the red shirt, yes, ma'am. He blew his top and ran out. He was by the front door. He ran out and slugged him in the chest, knocking him down to the ground. And his girlfriend and I were standing next to him, and he said, excuse my language, "F you too, and he punched her in the chest and knocked her down the ground also. And then when he turned towards me, at that point, I had just instantly, I defended myself, I hit him, I turned around, and I wanted to get the heck out of there. There was too many bouncers there. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I just wanted to be safe and get out of there. Then...
Just a second. So let me understand this, Mr. Bunch. You hit the employee first.
Yes, ma'am, after he had hit both of my friends and turned towards me.
You hit the employee first.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead, then what happened?
Okay, so I ran through the parking lot as fast as I could.
So you hit him, and then you ran away?
Yes, I ran as fast as I could. And then there was a bunch of people chasing me. And I zigzagged through the parking lot, I ran different directions. Finally, they caught up with me, and they beat the crap out of me. They knocked me down on the ground.
Order.
I curled up into a ball, and they stomped me, they kicked me with cowboy boots, or I don't know what, but they broke my finger. They gave me a subcutaneous hematoma in one of my other fingers. They kicked me in the back.
Just a second. When you say a subcutaneous hematoma, it meant that one of your nails turned black?
Yes, and they had to, in the ER, they had to burn a hole through my nail with an electric probe so the blood can come out. It was very painful. They broke my pinky in 2 places. I had numerous bruises and scratches and kicks, and I had a bump on my elbow that lasted for 2 weeks. I was just in pain.
Where did you hit this gentleman when you hit him?
Somewhere in the face.
And I assume that you hit him with your fist.
Yes, I did.
And you didn't stick around to see what kind of injury there was?
Not at all. I was running for my life. I wanted to leave that establishment. There was too many bouncers there. And I'm not a fighter. I was just defending myself. This guy hit both of my friends and turned towards me. Look at him. He's 6'4", 300 pounds and muscular. I'm getting out of there.
You should have gotten out before you hit him, Mr. Bunch.
He turned towards me and was coming at me.
Listen to me. You should have, at that point, if you're scared to death of him, you turn around as fast as your little legs can take you and you start to run. If you're, I mean, just think about it, Mr. Bunch.
You're
if
absolutely
you're scared
correct.
to death of somebody, you are large, aren't you, sir?
Yes.
Scared to death of this man. And you probably had to swing up to hit him, right?
No, he was coming towards me. I didn't have a second to react. He hit both of them, turns towards me, and he was down at my level, ready to hit me too. And that's when I just immediately hit him and ran. I didn't have a second to react. I couldn't believe, I was in amazement that this guy ran from the front door, ran out and hit the girl that was only 115 pounds and slammed her to the ground. I couldn't believe it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have a permanent disability. My finger is permanently bent.
Is that the hand that you hit him with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcus Bunch wants his medical bills paid after getting punched by a Cowboy Boogie Company bouncer. Owner Jack Wade says his bouncer has a different story.
Now, you, sir, weren't there that evening.
I was there, but I didn't
But
see
you
the
didn't
incident,
witness
no.
this. But you did.
Yes.
And who are you?
I'm Travis Kelly. I was also there.
Well, let's hear. Stand up here. You first.
Okay. I was at work one night, and I remember this night. It was a Wednesday night, which is usually pretty busy. And Travis, who works the pit, called me down.
What's the pit?
That's where, in front of the DJ booth. That's where we have the platform where we just allow girls to dance.
Okay.
He says he got 2 guys on there that won't get off. So we went out and we asked him to leave. To get off the platform. And when one of the guys was coming down, he shouldered Travis. Okay? So in other words, he kind of assaulted him with his shoulder. So we wanted to take him outside just to talk to him, which is standard practice.
That is not
we don't
true.
immediately throw people out. So in the course of escorting them to the door, they become very unruly. So we had to grab them, restrain them, and protect the other customers and get them outside. When we get them to the front door, I have to keep the door open. And one of the guys was coming at me, and I put my arm out to stop him. They wanted to come back in the club, and they were coming after me. So I'm just, I'm just trying to protect myself. And then the girl came after me, at me. Obviously, if I hit her, I would have killed her. Obviously.
So what'd you do to her?
I just she ran into my arm and
And she
fell
fell
down.
back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of these guys, somebody hit me from the side. I didn't even see it coming. Just it really was nothing. And then he took off running.
Well, that was him.
That
in
was,
case you
I
didn't
guess
know.
it was. Yeah, it didn't even hurt. It's like somebody slapped me in the face.
So he took off running, and what happened?
I don't have an answer for you there. But I saw the police down there. They were down there talking to the police. And
Nobody
they wanted to
chased
arrest
him?
me. I didn't see. I just got hit me in the eye. So.
Did you chase him?
No, I didn't chase him.
I don't know who it was. It was a bunch of guys in red shirts. That's all I know. They had a lot of employees wearing red shirts, just like the one he's wearing today.
Judge, all I know is I was the only one that was injured. Had any type of injury.
That's
And it
not
wasn't
true.
a big deal. It wasn't a big deal to me.
Well, you said he were hit on the side of the face and didn't even
Yeah,
hurt.
that's correct.
And you can't identify either one of these 2 people as being people who chased
No,
you.
ma'am, I can't. I was running for my life.
And all you saw was some people who were beating you up in red shirts.
I saw the red shirts. They stand out.
Red shirts?
Red shirts.
Okay. You want to stand up here,
Yeah.
sir?
I'd like to say, first of all, when he said we got off of the bar, the platform, nobody, neither one of us put a shoulder in either one of them.
I didn't
And then
think
we
that-
went back to the
I
table.
really didn't think that you did. Didn't you
No,
see the
we
look on
didn't.
my face?
No, we didn't.
But I want to know this, gentlemen. Have you been to this establishment before?
That was my first time there.
And
I
yours?
had been there before.
Well, if you were there before, you sort of knew the rules. Only girls are up on the platform.
I
Why
didn't
did
know
you-
that that was the rules.
Well, you took a look up on the platform. How many people were up there?
A lot of people up there.
All girls?
It was a very popular song. No, I
Just
don't
a
know
s-
if it was all girls or not, but there was a lot
But
of
it
people
looked
up
like
there.
all girls. You just told me, sir, a moment ago that you were offended because in this country there shouldn't be any difference between boys and girls, and you should be allowed to be dancing up there too. So
When
that's
they
why
kick-
you were offended.
After they had pulled us down, we looked up there and said, why aren't those people being kicked down also? And that's when he said, because they're all girls.
You mean you couldn't tell that before he told you that they were all girls?
I honestly didn't take a number. I didn't count them and say, look, there was all girls up there. Let's go up there and dance with all these girls.
And what about you?
Yeah, I saw a couple of girls up there, but I'm a guy, and maybe I wanted a date, so I got up there. But the fact of the matter is, when he grabbed me, 2 guys around my ankles, 2 guys around my wrist, another guy choking me. If they would have asked me to leave or told me, and threatened me, like, if you don't leave, I'm going to throw you out. But they didn't say that. They just came over, they threw me down, and then when they got to the door, they threw me past the umbrella.
Did you sue them?
Did I know?
How come?
The lawyer
'Cause-
said he didn't have a case.
Just a second.
At the time, I had, and
I'm
it was a
asking
car
him.
accident. I went to a lawyer. I explained it to the lawyer. He checked into it with him, said they went bankrupt, so there was no case.
So you
to
didn't
follow.
sue them?
So no, I did not sue them.
This place is making a ton of money. They have advertisements every night. They
No, I'm
have a
asking you-
lot of people there,
Listen
and
to
yet
me.
they're in bankruptcy.
Listen to me, sir. I'm asking him some questions. He's a perfectly intelligent man. He can answer these questions himself without assistance from you. Your date. You had a date that night?
Yes, it was my ex-girlfriend.
Was she thrown to the ground?
Yeah, he hit her with the palm of his hand very hard. She walked
Like
up.
this?
Yeah, with all his force. He hit her. She flew back at least 5 feet, and she's comes up to my chin. 110 pounds. He had no reason to hit her. He had no reason to hit me. He struck me first for no reason. I walked back up. I asked if I could get my hat. He said no. We had an exchange of words. I stand back. I step back. He came at me, hit me. Then my girlfriend was standing next to me. He proceeded to hit her with the palm of his hand. She had damage to her chest. She went to the emergency room also.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If I hit her like she said I did, like this, I would have killed her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcus Bunch says he was acting in self-defense when he hit a Cowboy Boogie Company bouncer.
Now, Mr. Bunch, you are in the difficult position, sir, of having thrown the initial punch in this case and then seeking damages. And seeking damages against somebody that you cannot identify other than red shirts. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Well,
I
that's a
do think,
problem.
though, that this is his responsibility as a business owner to interview his personnel, to make sure that they're qualified, to train them properly so that they do not lose their temper.
You have two problems, sir. A, you threw the first punch at his employee, and B, you cannot, to my satisfaction, identify his employees as the people who beat you up. It seems strange to me that somebody who was badly injured, as you say you were, did not take themselves down to the police precinct on the very next day and demand to file a complaint against the people who you say assaulted you so that they could be arrested and prosecuted for assault. You clearly knew enough how to file a civil proceeding, which requires the same kind of acumen.
I'm just learning this. I'm only 25 years old. I wasn't aware of my options. We tried to file a complaint against these people when the police were there, and they would not allow us to do so.
I don't believe that that's true.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can't file a complaint against him, sir, because I just told you. I'm not repeating it. You assaulted him.
We wanted him arrested.
We.
For assault.
Who's we?
Myself and Michelle
I'm not
Chippy.
interested in them.
Okay.
Their case is not before me. They chose not to sue anybody. Only you chose to sue them.
Now, I can establish that they were bouncers that worked for this club, that were the ones that came out.
I'm prepared to hear you.
Okay, because in the police report, it states that, and I can give this to you. And
I'd like to see the police report.
it established that they were the bouncers that detained me until the police arrived.
Just a second. Well, the first thing that you say is that you've outlined for me. It says, he ran but was caught by unknown security employees and held pending our arrival. You've outlined that, right? And that statement is attributed to you. It says, Bunch said. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
So then you said that. It's the same thing that you just said to me here. You indicated to me that this report would prove that it was employees who did that. So far, this is just your statement to the police. Am I correct?
So far, yes. Your
Okay.
Honor.
Who's something SSMAN?
Suspect Hammond, which is John Hammond here.
That's you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The only thing this says is Suspect Hammond related the same information and added that they chased down Suspect Bunch after Bunch fled after striking Judas, that's you,
That's me.
in the face. Is
Yes,
that
Your
right?
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Did you see that whole incident where they were beating him up, sir?
I couldn't see. I saw them chasing after him. I did not see them beat him. I saw them chase him.
Ah, okay. Who's they?
The bouncers of the Cowboy Boogie.
Who are not here?
Who are not here.
Okay.
But if they were here, I could tell you who they were.
Okay. But you didn't see any of them assaulting him?
Not behind it. No, I did not. Not out in the parking lot.
Okay.
We were on the ground behind cars,
Yeah,
Your
I
Honor.
couldn't see behind
Okay.
I was very far away from the front door at that point.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to explain to me. I'm asking whether he saw anything, sir. Seeing something gives me information. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This doesn't prove to me, sir, any of the things that you said that it was going to prove. We're still faced with a situation where you assaulted his employee first. You punched him in the face.
As a direct response to a threat. I thought I was going to
I don't believe that, sir. What I believe happened was you saw your two friends getting shoved hard. I don't believe he punched the girl. I believe, even according to this witness, he pushed her. You say nothing. Say nothing. You've told me your story, Mr. Bunch.
Can I show you the push that he did? Can I show you
To
how
whom?
he pushed her? Michelle Chippy.
It doesn't make any difference, sir.
He went like this and like that in her chest. If you call that a push, I call that a punch. Whether it's an open fist or a closed fist,
Then you
that's a
punched him
punch.
in the face.
Because he turned towards me.
I don't believe that, sir.
Your
sir.
Honor,
What I
I'm
believe.
not a fighter. I do not have a record for fighting. I've never been arrested for such. I'm not a fighter. I wanted to get out of there. He came towards me
Sir,
before
you
I
started,
had a
listen to
second.
me, Mr. Bunch. You
Yes,
started this whole problem, sir, when they told you to get off the dance floor, and you started by saying to a man who's probably twice your size, okay, hoss.
We got down.
Just a second. Just a second. That's what you just told me you did, right? And after there was an altercation, and I'm not so sure whether you all acted absolutely appropriately, you know, in making a big deal out of this thing. But there's no question that you hit him first.
But
and
he
I
hit
don't
two
believe...
other people first.
Sir. He didn't hit her.
Yes, he did.
I had enough. Mr. Bunch, this happened a year ago. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
This happened a year ago.
Yes, Your Honor. And I have a permanent disability. My finger is permanently bent because
Is that
of this.
just a second. Mr. Bunch, is that the hand that you hit him with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. There you go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Parties on Shelley versus Norian. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Peter Shelley says his former roommate, video store clerk Joyce Norian, skipped out on paying her rent and phone bills.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judge number 99 on the calendar in the matter of Shelley versus Norian. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
You all went to high school together.
Right.
That's correct.
And were friends.
Right.
We're.
Relax. Graduated from high school and you thought it would be a neat idea to have an apartment to live on your own.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you found an apartment.
Yeah.
Signed a lease together?
Correct.
1, 2, 3. You're the other roommate.
Yes.
And then you told your parents.
Right.
And they said, forget it.
That's correct.
So you said,
forget you.
not really.
Yeah.
According to these papers, you said, well, I'll just hang out in the apartment. I won't be able to live there, but I'll sort of use it like a home away from home.
Exactly.
Continue to pay rent? For how long did you pay rent?
For 5 months.
And how long was the lease?
6 months.
So now, Mr. Shelley, you want the other month's rent,
Yep.
which you say you owe.
Correct.
And how much was that?
$235.
She acknowledges she owes you that. But you, sir, want $3,000.
Yep. But I have reasons, though.
What?
I have reasons.
Mr. Shelley, that's why I'm here, sir.
All right.
So that you can try to convince me why she owes you $3,000.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Let's go for it, sir.
I brought a letter from my my boss, my ad manager, saying...
Don't bring me a letter from your boss. You want me to hear your boss? You bring your boss. You tell me why she owes you $3,000.
Well, she has an $835 phone bill that I have a copy of.
Good, that I'll see.
No problem.
Did you show it to her?
Yeah, she's seen it several times. Actually, she
Actually,
even...
you know what? I have paid so many phone bills. There's only one phone bill that I still owe you for, and I admitted it in my statement, which was $375. For the last month, I was not in the apartment, so whichever ones that were there is not my fault. So don't try to blame it on me, Peter.
Okay.
The way it works, Judge, is you get paid phone bills for the month before. She wasn't in the last month, but she was in the previous months. So
what was the month that you last spent in the apartment?
I believe it was April, and that was for the $375.
And she bounced a check previously for $387 that's carried over. That's showed on there as well. And I think Chris will testify to everything that she made every single one of those phone calls.
Oh, I admit I
outside
made
of California.
the phone calls. I made the phone calls to Florida. Judge, I have relatives in Miami and elsewhere in the United States, and I admit to it, and I've paid them previously, and the ones that I do admit for them for the $375. But I do not admit for the other ones.
No, it's $835. I think Chris
According
will
to you, the ones that I've
Just
made.
a second. What was your last date in the apartment?
You know, honestly, Judge, I do not remember the exact same date, but I know the month was April.
Beginning, middle, end?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay. I have calls here to Cleveland. Who is that?
I don't know anybody in Cleveland. I admit to Miami, I admit to New York and New Jersey, but I don't know anybody in Cleveland.
Well, I have North Dade, Florida.
That's correct. I know
April
Florida.
9th. And then after that, I have no calls to Florida. But, sorry, Miss Nurian. I just turned over the page. May 1st, 48 minutes.
Damn, sorry.
Not April.
Oh, that's good.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
May 1st,
Okay,
48 minutes.
you know, you might be correct. I'm not going to argue that.
Judge, I think my witness...
April 30th. You also called the same number in Miami, so you were there in April and May, beginning of May.
The lease, Your Honor, ended in June, and I remember that I was not there for the last part of the month. As far as exact the same date, honestly, I do not remember what it was. What had happened was my parents found out, and boom, like that, I was just out there, out the door.
Okay. Let us say that her phone bill is $800.
Okay.
And she owes you $235 for her rent, which she acknowledges. That's $1,035. Okay, Mr. Shelley. Let's go how we get to $3,000,
Okay.
sir.
I work in a commission-based job. I have to be using the phone. I carry a pager with me. I'm always on call. If I'm at home, I'm always on call. I'm working no matter what, all the time. If I don't have a phone, which I didn't for 2 months, very much handicaps my job. If I can't call clients back, I can't service them. I lose clients, I lose money, I lose a lot of stuff. It's just everything, I mean, everything totaled up me off. I think she should pay for it. I take cold showers for 2 months. I mean, it sounds lame,
Why did you have to
but
take cold showers for 2
because
months?
she didn't pay her gas bill. And everything totaled together, just, I think she should pay for what she did.
Your Honor, and in the previous matters, you know, I've paid for everything on time, as everything was supposed to be paid of.
Why didn't you pay your last month's rent?
Okay, let me explain to you, Your Honor. My parents had found out, and my bank account, everything was with my parents' name. They had everything a hold of it. They closed everything for me, and I wasn't working, so everything was gone from me, from getting about $4,000 a month from my parents to $0 a month. I was looking for a job. I was struggling, trying to find stuff. I know people are going to say, you know, you're spoiled. Yeah, you got $4,000. Oh, poor thing. She's not going to get anything now. Yeah, but you know what? I'm trying to do it on myself. Give me some time. I'll do it. And I've talked to him previously, and I told him, let me get myself back on my feet, and I'll pay you back. He's borrowed money from me before. You didn't see me hauling your ass. Peter, pay me.
Did I pay you back?
You did, but you didn't see me hauling your ass.
Did it take me 2 months to pay you back?
You were like 2 weeks late, but I didn't say
yelling
anything
at
to
each
you,
other.
Peter.
The
I didn't say anything to
thing
you,
that made me
Peter.
the angriest, Judge, is that she said she would pay me, and she said she'd pay me several times. I wrote checks because she was going to pay me the next day. I mean, she's all, I'll pay you tomorrow, $235, no problem. And I'm all, yeah, okay, great. I'll write a check for the rent. I wrote 2 checks, bounced 2 checks. It ruined my credit.
Your Honor, I stepped to the apartment one time when I owed the money $235, and I left it in the apartment in an envelope, and I wrote on it, Peter. I call him, and he tells me, I tidn't find it. Okay, and I was still trying to be a nice guy, and I said, okay, maybe, you know what, it got lost because it was an envelope. It got thrown away. You know, it's a house full of men. You know, you never know. It can be thrown away. I was still trying to be the nice guy and pay him back. Oh, go ahead and laugh, Peter.
Listen.
Judge, she left it in not an envelope. She left it in a piece of notebook paper folded up on a cluttered
How would you know
college
if you never
counter.
saw it?
You told me, you stupid... God.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They don't have phones in San Diego. You
Yes,
can't
I
pick up
do.
the phone and go,
listen to my last
yo,
statement,
I'll
did
pay
you?
you later, Peter.
Yo, shut the hell up, Peter.
Shut the hell up.
You shut up.
And later today,
Did you have acupuncture on your cat?
She also took the cat to the pet psychic.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Peter Shelley is suing his former friend and roommate, Joyce Norian, for not paying her rent and phone bill. Joyce agrees she owes some money, but claims it's nowhere near $3,000.
Listen to me, sir. You're 19?
Yeah.
You're at the beginning of your career.
Uh-huh.
We're not talking about heavy-duty problems, sir, that require this kind of anger. You understand? Sometimes you get involved in living situations and it doesn't work out. That doesn't mean you're compensated for everything from lost beepers to cold showers.
Not lost beepers, lost clients, which is...
Well, that's hard, very hard for a court to calculate, sir, how much business you actually lost as a result of your phone being turned off. And there were probably other ways that you could have dealt with it. You have a job, sir?
I was working at a warehouse previously
Well,
when I was involved.
Why didn't you get a telephone?
Because I don't use a telephone very often.
Come on, give me a break. That's a dumb answer.
Chris never moved in. He never lived there. He paid rent just like her.
Just a second. So what you're telling me, you had this apartment all by yourself?
Yeah.
That's some deal. You had an apartment all by yourself. There must have been a nice apartment. Two people who weren't really living there, but coming by occasionally. I mean, that's not a bad deal,
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree
It's
with
not
you.
a bad
That's a good deal. But that doesn't mean she shouldn't end up paying for
Oh,
her
she's going
last
to pay.
rent.
She's going to pay you what she owes you, sir. She's not going to pay you for your inconvenience. Because
And
I
I've
don't
admitted
believe...
to that in my statement, Your Honor. I was being honest about it. Yes, I do owe him this certain amount of money.
I think that you owe him a little bit more for the phone bill that you acknowledge, and I am awarding him a total of $1,035 for both your rent and the phone bill. That's all.
Thank you.
Excuse me, step out. Back to your right.
They disconnected for me. I didn't have time to pay
couldn't you
for
call
it.
me and say,
You know,
hey,
I
I'm
was in
gonna
San
pay you?
Diego all the time. I didn't have any
You
connections to
couldn't.
come down.
They don't have phones in San Diego. You
Yes,
can't
I
pick
did.
up
Didn't
the phone and
listen
go,
to my last
yo,
statement,
I'll
did
pay you later, Peter.
Yo, shut the hell up, Peter.
Shut the hell up.
You shut up.
And now the next case.
Party's on Mizell versus Hall. Step forward, please.
38-year-old teacher Vicki Mizell is suing her neighbors, Tracy and Randy Hall, because their 5-year-old daughter, Brooklyn, broke her cat's leg by stepping on it.
I assume that that is the cat in question.
This is the cat in question.
And I assume that that is the child in question.
That's the child.
Miss Mizell, you claim that this little girl stepped on your cat, caused the cat some injuries. Your vet bills were $2,000. You want them to pay, right?
Yes.
What was your cat doing in their house? That's where this happened, is that
Yeah.
right?
The cat was staying with them while I was out of town, but the cat had been at their house many times over a couple of month period because the cat made friends with their children. And they were from Idaho and they were staying in LA for for 6 months. And so they missed their animals back home. So the cat would go over sometimes for play dates, sometimes would spend the night, had stayed with them at another time when I was out of town, and so...
Let me understand this. You asked them to do you a favor and let the cat stay at their house while you went out of town?
Yes.
And they have kids?
Yes.
3 of them.
How old are your children?
At the time, they're 3, 5, and 10.
Tell me your name.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
Spell it for me.
Brooklynn.
All right.
All right, Brooklyn. That's where I was born.
Oh, honey.
Me too.
Would you like to come up and talk to me? Oh, come on up here.
Watch your step. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
That's a really pretty name.
Thanks.
Do you know what happened to that cat that made it limp?
I just got up out of bed, I walked down the hallway and then, I didn't realize, the cat was there and then I stepped
stepped on it. Then it was limping.
Okay, was that an accident? Do you like the cat? I figured you liked the cat. You play with the cat?
Yeah.
Do you have any other animals home?
Yeah, we raised some cows and a baby kitten.
Okay, are you very careful with the cat and the kitten? Okay. Why don't you go back and stand there next to your mom and dad?
I'd like to also point out that the cat, you know, obviously it's fairly old, but it also had some hearing problems.
Whatever. It was an accident in the house, Miss Mizell. Now, according to what I've read here, you don't have this cat very long, is that right?
The cat was a stray, and she was found a year ago, and some other people found her. And
So you've had the cat for about a year?
A year now.
Okay, and how old is the cat? Do you have any idea?
We think about 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
And there was, at the time when we found out that her foot was broken, Mr. Halls, and we all went to the vet together. The vet explained what would have to happen, and he said to me, he said, we'll pay for half the surgery, let me talk to my wife.
Your claim against these people is $2,000.
Now.
Because that's what you've spent in vet bills.
Yes, plus, yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's say, Ms. Mizell, that the vet bills to take care of the cat were $10,000. Would you have paid $10,000?
I don't know. I don't have $10,000, and I don't know.
Would you have paid $5,000?
Yes.
But you don't know if you would have paid 10.
I haven't been working. I was injured 10's a lot.
How about 20?
20,000? Mm-hmm. I would have found her a home. I would not have had her put to sleep.
But you wouldn't have paid the 20.
You know, I mean, you're asking stuff
I'm asking
that's
you these
arbitrary.
questions. I'm asking you these questions for a reason.
If I had $100,000, I would have paid 20.
Yes, but you don't.
Right.
So that you yourself put a limit on how much you would spend to take care of the cat.
Well, it's actually not over yet.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's a bad break. It's an old cat. You know, the older you get, the more brittle your bones get. That's what they tell me, at least.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Vicki Mizell thinks her neighbors, Tracy and Randy Hall, should pay her vet bills because their 5-year-old daughter broke her cat's leg. The Halls feel the cat should be put to sleep.
You are not suggesting that this child purposely hurt your cat. You are not suggesting that, are you?
I'm not, and in the records it says it was accidental.
Fine, so this child accidentally stepped on your cat.
I think it's a bad break, so, you know.
It's a bad break. It's an old cat. You know, the older you get, the more brittle your bones get. That's what they tell me, at least. And what you can withstand when you're 60, you can't withstand when you're 56. So I'm certain that this little girl, when she was walking down the hallway and stepped on the cat was just lying there. She didn't mean to hurt her. Now, you were prepared to spend any amount of money to take care of your cat. These people originally offered, according to these papers, I think $400. Is that right?
Right. When I was at the...
I think that was very, I think that really that was very nice of them.
They never did. They said they did, and then they didn't. What?
In your written letter, it says here that we offered you the money.
I said you did offer, and then you reneged on it.
Because it went up $500 every day.
Let me hear. Talk to me. Don't talk to her.
Part of her bill was like $350 for acupuncture.
And then,
I mean,
do you have acupuncture on your cat?
Yeah, but this is being exaggerated.
No,
I have it right here.
Did you have acupuncture on your cat?
Yes, there was acupuncture on the cat, and it was not $350.
I have it.
Shh.
It's
Let me see it.
she also took the cat to the pet psychic, and that's how she found out that the cat belonged to another family.
Well, that's not part of your bill. The
No.
pet psychic.
Yeah. No. I don't think it was.
Acupuncture. I guess it's $336.
Your Honor, they offered to pay, and when the doctor needed the money, I didn't have the money, so I went to them to get what they'd offered, and Mr. Hall said, let me transfer the funds in the morning. Call me in the morning, I'll transfer the funds. The next day, it was a different ball game.
That's not true.
It is true.
Just a second. So what you're saying is you offered to give her $400, and you're prepared to do that.
Right.
They never
Just a
did.
second.
Okay.
Just answer my question. You're prepared to do that?
Yes.
I think that that's very generous of you, sir. And this, madam, by the way, does say that you took the cat for acupuncture. It was $42 per treatment for $336. That's what this says.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You're the cat's owner, but you said I couldn't spend $10,000 because I didn't have it. So there would come a point where you would say, I can't spend anymore. These people have offered initially.
But here's what you're missing. Excuse me.
It doesn't make any difference
But they offered, then they reneged. They never came through. They weren't nice. They weren't helpful. They weren't supportive. They didn't say they were sorry. None of this happened.
Well, Miss Mizell, what do you want? You want them to pay all of the medical bills.
Well, now, I mean, what I've been through with this has been horrendous.
All right, Miss Mizell, if you want somebody to watch your cat and if you want them to be responsible for what happens to the cat, I suggest you leave your cat in the future in the hands of a professional. Then the professional is responsible for whatever happens to your cat while your cat is in their care. That is somebody that boards animals. If you elect to leave your cat with a family that has young children and the cat is accidentally injured, then you cannot expect the parents of a 5-year-old child who there is no evidence maliciously caused any injury to your cat to be responsible. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues.
Parties on Thomas versus Eclavia. Step forward, please.
29-year-old waitress Georgina Thomas says her former friend, 36-year-old Carolyn Eclavia, made a false police report that put her in jail for 72 hours.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Judges number 207 in the matter of Thomas versus Eclavia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bernie.
Very welcome, Judge.
Ms. Thomas, the basis of your complaint is that the defendant had you falsely arrested, according to you, for assault, which caused you to be embarrassed, humiliated, stressed, strained, etc., etc. Is that right?
Yes.
And your story is a rather interesting one, and I think that probably it needs an airing because it led up to this arrest.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
How do you know her?
When I lived in Washington State about 7 years ago, I knew her just from the neighborhood we lived in. We were friends. We've been friends. Then I ran into her again down here about a year and a half ago. So we've been friends and stayed in contact here and there when we didn't lose touch with each other for almost 7 years now.
Now, you were both living on a Navy base?
Navy military housing.
Military, both of you?
Yes, different complexes.
I understand. And according to the papers that I've seen, there was a transaction with a car that started all this trouble.
Right.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay. I sold her the car for $100, and I let her make payments on it because they had no money, no vehicle, or anything. Then I went on vacation. I signed the title and gave her the keys on the agreement that she would get it out of my name on her husband's next payday because I was leaving on vacation. And then,
what kind of car was this?
Dodge 400. I had bought a new car, and
How old was the car?
I think at 84 or something like that.
So it was a real old car?
Yeah.
She sold you the car?
No, she sold it to my husband. I don't even drive. I've never driven.
She sold it to you or your husband, but there was an understanding that you would get it out of her name so she wouldn't be liable for it anymore.
Yes.
Did you do that?
The agreement was she would wait until we had the money, which would be the next paycheck.
But then you didn't.
The Navy was.
But you didn't do it the next paycheck.
We didn't have the money at that time.
I don't
until
care
she
whether
got
you didn't
back.
have the money. That's not her problem that you didn't have the money. Let me just understand this. And you didn't fulfill your agreement with her next paycheck to get the car out of her name. That's what this whole argument was about. Is that correct?
That's what started it, yes.
So then what happened?
Then she tells me on the day I got home that she had sold the car and it's out of my name. So I called the DMV and it was still in my name. In fact, it's in my name to this day.
Did you tell her that you sold the car?
Yes, I did sell the car. My husband and I had separated, and I didn't have any finances, so I did sell the car.
Now tell me about this assault. How did this all take place?
It was basically because her husband was driving a car around in my name uninsured. Then she sold it to somebody I don't even know who's driving it around
Terrible.
in my name uninsured.
She's very irresponsible.
Then I talked to her on the phone and she said, come over and get your cat. She had my cat while I was on vacation. I went over there. We got into a verbal argument. All I did was throw
Over the car?
Over the car, yes, and her not getting it out of my name. All I did was throw the litter box on the ground, and the next thing I know, the police are at my house telling me that I assaulted her and I threatened her life if she didn't sign a bill of sale. And I just kept insisting I didn't do this, and they kept telling me, this is what you did. And they arrested me.
Do you have a copy of the complaint?
The police report?
Yes.
No, I tried to get it, but it had been over 60 days, so they wouldn't give it to me without a court order.
This is untrue, what she says.
Just a minute. Did you call the police?
Yes, I did, and the
Why?
reason why I called the police is when she came to pick up her mail and her cat, when I turned around to get the mail, she threw the cat on me to where it clawed my back, and its claw stuck in my back. Then I went and I tried to get outside to where somebody could see what she was doing. I did not have a phone in my home. My neighbors heard and saw her yell at me and say that she was going to come back and kill me.
You called the police?
Yes, I did call the police. She assaulted me in my own home.
Well, just a minute. Did you throw your cat on her?
No, my cat was pregnant. I would not harm my cat in any way. I never touched her. I will take a lie detector. I will do anything. I never touched her. I never assaulted. I never threatened her life. I never did any of that. The only thing her neighbors saw.
You might have said a lot of loud things because you were angry.
Exactly. But the only thing the neighbor saw was me throw the kitty litter box on the ground, which was empty, and say, I'll be back later for the car because she told me to come back for the car. The guy who bought it doesn't want to deal with this.
Do you have any photographs of how the cat injured you?
I had them at home, but I never got them developed because I dropped charges on her.
Just a second.
I did not want to press charges.
Hold on a second. Well, even if you didn't want to press charges then in the criminal proceeding, you're here today, so you knew you were coming to court today. Why didn't you get the pictures developed?
Because I did not even want to have it brought this far.
But you know you were coming here, madam.
And I did not want it brought this far.
Well,
she did not drop the charges. They dropped the charges because she never responded to any of it. The DA dropped the charges.
No,
she never responded to them.
How
I had
long
to
were
go
you in
to
jail?
a mediator. 72 hours.
No, that is untrue.
My bail was $15,000. I was in there with hookers and prostitutes that could have got out for $150. Mine would have been $1,500.
Ms. Thomas, had you ever been arrested before?
No. I was taken to the police station one time for police disturbance when I was like 18 or 19.
You also say in your complaint that the defendant wrote letters to your husband.
Yes.
While he was away at sea.
I have it right here.
I'd like to see those letters, please.
Do you want to see the one to my housing manager?
Yes, I want to see
This is the one to my housing manager. It's signed Concerned Citizen, but you can tell the handwriting matches it perfectly.
Can I see them?
Every sick thing you can imagine she wrote about me.
Excuse me. If she is so nice and innocent, then why do my children fear her? The same day that she assaulted me, my son is coming home from school. She pulls up to him as he's crossing the street from the school, and she tells him that if you don't get out of the street, she's going to run him over, an 11-year-old boy.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are full of baloney because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them.
And later today,
I think at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bail.
Well, that was nice.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Georgina Thomas says her former friend, Carolyn Niclavia, had her falsely arrested after an argument over a car.
Right now, all I have is her complaint. Put it down. I'm speaking. I have her complaint. In her complaint, she mentioned several things. You want to sue her? If you think you have a cause of action,
No, I didn't.
file a complaint. I'm asking you, did you write to her husband, Ron?
Her husband had asked me time
the answer
and time
is
again.
yes
I
or
did
no.
write him.
Good.
Yes,
and this
he
is
wanted
the
to know if
hey,
she was having an affair.
Hey, you pay attention to me. You wrote her husband. Did you write to her husband before or after this incident involving the police?
Afterwards.
How long had you known her husband?
I've known him before I met her.
So you felt compelled to say that his wife was cheating on him as a
asked
boyfriend?
me time and time again whether she was having an affair. And
When
yes,
did
I
he-
did write, and I did tell her, because the boyfriend was coming to the house where I babysit, where I live, harassing my sons.
It's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Just a second. All of this didn't seem to bother you when you bought her car.
Because
You
I
bought
did
just
not
a
buy
second.
it. I don't even
listen,
drive.
Listen to me. All these things, the boyfriend who was, according to you, when you wrote this letter to the landlord, a convicted felon. She sells pounds of weed and cocaine out of her house. All of these things didn't bother you when she sold you the car a few weeks before this incident occurred. How come all these things just bothered you after the car incident?
Because the harassment didn't start until after she had the problem with my husband. To me, it was her business.
Just a
I have
second,
no
what-
right to judge her.
So,
but when she started harassing me, harassing my children, and assaulting me, then yes, I believe.
Then
yes.
all of a sudden, just a minute, then all of a sudden you decided that her husband had to know, the landlord had to know about all these charges after that. But before it was okay.
I did call the DA
Just a
that
second.
had pressed charges time and time again.
Just a second.
And no one would come because I could not afford the restraining order against her.
You don't have to afford a restraining order, madam. All you have to do is go to court. And if you have a case, you can get a restraining order. Don't give me a lot of baloney. Instead of using the court system, what you did was you wrote letters designed to make trouble for her.
Thank you.
That's what you did. And calling the police, because I don't believe she threw her cat at you.
Oh, that is
Oh,
wrong.
no, I don't believe it. Because I believe, madam, if she threw her cat at you, you are organized enough, based upon these letters, to have developed the photographs, which you say you have at home. When you knew you were coming to court today to show me the injuries, you are organized enough to do that. So I don't believe that there were any injuries. I believe that she did
Then
probably...
why would the district attorney look at him on my arms, on my back, and decide
Do
that
you-
he would press charges at her? If there was
Mrs.
nothing
Clava-
wrong, why would he take her to jail?
You are full of baloney, because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them. Now, the only issue is, what kind of damages am I going to assess against you? Because I believe that you are a nasty, vindictive person.
Can I explain a little
That's
more?
what I believe. You are a nasty, vindictive person. And I believe that she's entitled to be compensated. Now, the truth is, you threw down this item at her.
I'm kidding.
Okay?
Not at her on the ground.
Whatever, Miss Thomas. You were angry. Very angry. And you probably did say something like you're going to be back because you probably got into a major altercation with her. I don't believe that she had the right, really, at that point, because she was not, in fact, injured by you, to call the police. But I believe that there is more of a vindictiveness involved here than anything else. As a result of that letter that she wrote to your husband, did anything happen?
We're now getting divorced, yes.
Well, it wasn't just because of this letter, is that
no,
right?
we were having small problems at first, but nothing like this.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you whether you had a boyfriend or not. It's really none of my business. The letter was written maliciously, and the letter to the landlord was also written maliciously. That is Army Housing. I'm awarding you $2,500, and that's against you. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused.
Thank you.
You may step out. Come back to your right, please.
I've taken her food. They had no food, anything. I was a good friend to her. I took her to buy the dress she has on now because she doesn't drive. I did everything for her. The only thing I have to say is, from now on, if your big sister warns you about somebody, you should listen to it. She's just jealous. She's very jealous because I get all the attention and she gets none.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Crawford versus Sullivan. Step forward, please.
30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
You were arrested for assault. He posted bail.
That's correct.
You won't pay him the money for the bail that he posted for you.
That's correct.
Well, let us start with you, sir.
Okay.
Because I found your response, quite frankly, slightly ungrateful. Now, when were you arrested?
On the 24th of November,
What were you arrested for?
assault.
Don't look down there. You probably don't need it, because
Actually,
I'm sure you
okay.
can tell me
It
exactly.
was the 28th of November.
And you were arrested for assaulting whom?
Somebody at a nightclub.
Were you drunk?
Nope.
So that wasn't an excuse.
No.
Just didn't like them.
No, that wasn't the fact either. I was pulling out of the driveway at the nightclub, and this particular individual walked up to my car and kicked it, a brand new car. Myself and another friend got out of the vehicle and walked up to him, and he started a confrontation. I went back to get in the vehicle, and he came in the vehicle after me. He was on top of me inside the vehicle. The police were sitting out front, and they all swarmed in, and they seen it happen.
Well, that sounds like he assaulted you, so why do you think you were arrested?
Because of the injuries on him.
Which were, I assume, substantial?
Yes.
Were you convicted of that assault,
No, I
ultimately?
wasn't.
Did you go to trial?
The case was dismissed.
Now, when you were arrested, you were taken to jail,
Yes.
and bail was fixed?
Actually, I was going in for my OR hearing,
What's an OR hearing?
release on my own recognizance.
But you spent the night in jail.
No, I didn't.
You spent any time in jail?
Yes,
Is the reason that you were released from jail because this gentleman posted bail?
that's correct.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bill.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail, and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
How long did you know him before you posted this bail?
Not very long, just a couple of weeks.
And would you tell me how it came about that you posted the bail for him?
I happened to be walking out of the nightclub right as this incident started, and I witnessed it. And I saw the police take him away. I received a phone call at early hours in the morning from the friend that was with him, and he said, Shannon is in jail. He wanted me to call you, tell you that he's in jail. This friend said that he told Shannon he could not get him out of jail, and wanted to know if I could do anything to help get him out. He said that Shannon would try to get a hold of me later, which he did. He was able to call me from a desk sergeant's phone.
So he called you from a desk sergeant's phone, and what did he say when he called?
He gave me all the specific information, the case number, told me what he was booked on, told me how much the bail was. I immediately called a bail bondsman. I didn't even think twice about calling a bail bondsman, even though we weren't really good friends. I just felt sorry for him. I didn't want anyone to have to spend Thanksgiving Day in jail when he was planning on going to see his family in Arizona the next day. So I placed bail for him. And
how much did that cost you?
Well, bail was $5,000. They charged 20% of that for fees, and then there's filing fees, so it was $760.
And did you have a discussion with him about paying you back?
He wrote me a thank you note, said, I can't believe you did that for me. Don't worry, I won't let you down. I felt sorry for him because he said that he needed money, and I actually knew of some work that was opening up where I work, and so I gave his name to some people at work. He was hired at work, worked there just a short time, and after he stopped working where I work, he stopped returning all phone calls. I tried calling several times.
All right, Mr. Crawford. Now, Mr. Sullivan, $760 is what this gentleman spent on your behalf. Now, you want to try to explain to me why you don't think you owe him this money.
First of all, I knew I was going to an OR hearing and I was going to be released, okay? When I went up to the judge for my OR hearing, she said that you were just released on a $5,000 bond. I did not know who did. I didn't contact anybody. I never contacted my family or anything. Nobody even knew about it except for Paul, which was my friend. I never requested John to bail me out whatsoever. John did it on his own. That was his own thing. He did it.
Yeah, I'd spend that much money just to be nice.
Okay.
So why didn't you just tell the judge,
first,
I'm not accepting this bail, and I'm prepared to hear whatever you have to say, and I'll plead my own case to be released on my own recognizance without any consideration of this bail, so forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bail.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan. You were more than happy at the moment to say, thank you very much. Where's my hat?
Bye-bye.
He wasn't arrested. You were arrested. Sounds
Right.
to me like he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy for doing that. But I think there's more to
told-
it than just being a nice guy also. I
Like
think
what?
at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bill.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, it was too nice, actually.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had an option, sir. Your option was to say to the judge, who posted the bail for me? Question. Answer, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford.
I did ask
do not.
that.
You did ask.
They did not have that at the time because the bondsman had not delivered everything over to
Well,
the court
if the
yet.
bondsman hadn't delivered everything over, Mr. Sullivan, they wouldn't have released
That's
you.
what I was told.
They
I didn't
wouldn't
get out
have
till 2
released
hours
you if
later.
the bondsman had not delivered all the paperwork. I've been around long enough to know that.
Okay. I'm just telling you
All
what I
right, this is
know.
not a very difficult case. You owe him $760.
Okay.
Period. End of discussion. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Order in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 293 on the calendar in the matter of Carlin versus Stepp. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Carlin, you and the defendant have been divorced for many years.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you shared custody for most of those years of your now 16-year-old daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounded as if everything was going along reasonably well. Right? Until you gave your consent while your daughter was with you to have her lip pierced.
Yes.
A decision which I gather, reading between the lines, you regret a little bit.
Slightly.
And as a result of that, Mr. Carlin, I get the sense you filed this lawsuit, which alleges that your former wife had agreed to pay for half of your daughter's karate lessons.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And she became rather expert in karate. She took karate for several years. Your former wife had not paid for half.
That's correct.
Something that I don't think bothered you too much until the lip piercing.
No, that's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, this whole thing didn't blow up until the lip piercing. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then something happened that, as far as I'm concerned, was tragic, but we'll get to that in a moment. So why don't you tell me when this agreement was made with your former wife?
About 3 years ago, Sarah was shopping around. She was interested in taking karate. So she looked at one school, and she looked at another one, and she liked the second one. It wasn't as expensive as the other one, and as a matter of fact, it was a little bit cheaper, but they wanted the money up front, basically over a 10-month to a year period. It came out to a little over $4,100. I talked to my wife, Teresa, and she said, we cannot afford this. I said that Sarah's mother would agree to split it with me. I picked up the phone, I called her, I laid this out to her, exactly how they wanted. I didn't expect the money right up front from her, but she said that she would split the cost of the school. 2.5 years later, 3 years later, I've yet to get a dime.
You remember having the conversation with him
No,
when your
Your
daughter
Honor.
started school?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
He says that he did discuss with you when she first started karate school, make sure you tell me the truth, that he wanted you to pay for half because he couldn't assume the entire burden of the classes. Now, are you telling me that he's lying?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. That's not true. I never saw one document from the karate school. He never approached me about paying half the money. We split tokens. He would pay tokens 1 week, I would pay tokens for school. The karate lesson money was never brought up.
Okay. Now, something happened with your daughter recently, I assume, when she came to you and said she wanted to have her lip pierced. Tell me about that conversation.
Well, for 2 years, she had wanted to get something pierced. She has about 3 holes in her ear, and I was like, no more, no more. And when she was 16, we had discussions. She asked and asked and asked, and finally I broke down.
Did you discuss it with her father?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
It really wouldn't have been a big deal.
All right, Mr. Carlin.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you saw your daughter. I must tell you, I am sympathetic with you as a parent. You see your gorgeous daughter, and she's got this ridiculous thing in her face, and you got really angry.
That's correct.
So what did you do?
Well, Sarah and I had discussions prior to this that she was getting a little tired of the shared custody arrangement. So I picked her up and saw the stud, and I couldn't believe it. I took her down the next day to the place where she had it put in, and I let them know that she was only 16. I want this thing out now. And she refused to come in. So I took her back to her mother's house, and I said, "You're tired of this shared custody arrangement?" I said, "I can't have this, either." And that was it. She's been with her mother since July 15th.
Mr. Carlin, you're going to answer me very honestly, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think you've been a good father. I think you've been an involved father, good parent. Do you believe, Mr. Carlin, that your reaction to your daughter's piercing was appropriate?
At the time, yes.
Now, at the time, yes, because you're a human being and you have, the juices started to flow. In retrospect.
No, I think I could have handled it a little bit differently, but like I said, even Sarah agreed that she shouldn't have gotten this thing, and she even went down with me to the place where she got it pierced at to get it out. But when we got there, she made a stance that I'm not going to do it, Dad. And I said, well, then we just can't have this shared custody arrangement anymore.
Excuse me, Your Honor. She didn't want to go down to the piercing place. He made her go down, and when she wouldn't get it out, he dropped her off at the corner of my street and said, "Get out," in no uncertain terms. They had no discussion over the shared custody thing outlasting itself. The term was, "Get out."
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As long as I pay the bills, I want to be able to look at you unencumbered by things coming out of your face and your ears.
And later today,
Never get in the middle of two people who are getting a divorce.
They've never got along. He can't stand her.
That's very understandable.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joe Carlin says his ex-wife Mary Stepp agreed to pay for half of their daughter's karate lessons. Mary claims they never had such an agreement, and Joe is angry because she allowed their daughter to get her lip pierced.
A judge is not a computer. A judge is a human being, and we bring to our job all of our history, all of our own personal stories. So I'm going to share one with you, all right? I have 5 kids, and they're all older now. When one of my children started college, and this was 14, 15 years ago, he came home from school after his first couple of months, and I picked him up at the bus station, which was pretty far away from our house. And he was coming home with a friend. And he got off the bus, and I looked at this handsome child, and he had something wangling from his ear. So I kissed him hello. And I said, "You can get in the car. That thing stays outside." "Oh, Mother, don't be ridiculous. Everybody's doing it." I said, "Listen, I don't have to look at it. I brought you into this world. I still pay the bills. As long as I pay the bills, I want to be able to look at you unencumbered by things coming out of your face and your ears." He thought I was kidding. I said, "You got 5 minutes, boy." And he hung around, he spoke to his friend, and they were trying to figure out whether I was serious or not. 5 minutes passed, the thing wasn't out of his ear. I got in my car and I went home. And about 2.5 hours later, because it took that long by public transportation, you know where this was? This was in the Bronx, all the way up in the Bronx, where the bus came in from Albany, Bronx, New York. He managed to find his way home without the earring in his ear. Now, that doesn't mean when he was in college, he didn't have rings and ropes and dangles and doodads hanging out from every orifice of his body. But I didn't have to look at it. So you didn't do the right thing. You're supposed to be a parent first and a friend second. And a parent says, "Babe, you got a couple more years until you are 18 years old. Then I can't tell you what to do." Right? You want to paint polka dots on your face, you can paint polka dots on your face. But while you're in my house, I don't want to have to look at this thing here. I don't want to look at something in your tongue. I don't want to look at something in your nose. I just don't want to see it. You didn't do that. That really irritated him. Right, Mr. Carlin?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So the problem is this. I find it difficult, Mr. Carlin, to imagine that 3 years have gone by with you taking no action whatsoever, even to get $100, $200, and have done nothing over the 3-year period of time to recoup any money if you say that there was this verbal agreement. I have a problem with that. So I'm going to take care of the lawsuit right now. I'm not satisfied that you have established to my satisfaction that there was this contract.
Your Honor, child support is more than just a check in the mail each week. There's
Sir, if that's
parental
what you're
support.
banking on, I'm telling you, it doesn't hold water. Karate lessons don't come under the category of necessaries for anybody. So I'm not, if that's what you're hanging your hat on, forget it. More importantly, Mr. Carlin, you have invested 16 years in your daughter. And I think it's a mistake to cut her off after 16 years because she, as a 16-year-old, made a foolish mistake. Big mistake, Mr. Carlin. I want you to rethink it. In any event, this lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
I took care of her.
Not one
From a-
phone call
from an
since July 15th. Not one phone call. Nothing.
Sarah don't know how to use a phone.
Your duty's to call her at 7 o'clock
Oh, that's
at
my
night.
duty.
Yeah, you're
That's
the father. She's a child.
She's 16 years old.
Great, great.
She's 16 years old. She can make up her mind.
And now the next case.
Parties on Lehman versus Morris. Step forward, please.
22-year-old Kelly Lehman says she made a deal with her best friend April Morris to take over the payments on her truck and pay for repairs. She's suing because April's ex-husband, James, repossessed it.
It's not every case that has a moral. This case has a moral. You know what that is?
Yes.
You know what the moral is?
Don't do business with friends.
That's one, but the other one would be never get in the middle of two people who are getting a divorce. It's always a mistake. Right? Miss Lamont, according to your papers, the defendant was a friend of yours. She and her husband were divorcing. You the husband?
Yes.
And I'm sure in addition to other things, there was a truck that they wanted to sell, or that she wanted to sell. There were payments due and owing on the truck. You made an arrangement with her to take over the payments on the truck and to do substantial repairs that were on the truck.
Correct.
You paid the money for the repairs. You didn't have the truck in your possession at that
No,
time.
I did not.
Truck is in the shop.
Correct.
And you kept paying.
I made one payment.
In August.
In August, correct.
And according to these papers, for most of the month of August, the truck was still in the shop.
Yes.
And you're going to tell me why you did that in a minute. And then, in the divorce, according to your answer, he got possession of the truck, and he came and took it out of her driveway. Is that this case?
Well, it was parked on the street.
Or took it from the street. So you want to be paid back for all the repairs you did on the truck, for the payment that you made on the truck, and then there's something here about punitive damages, which is really nonsense.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We started getting in a fight after her boyfriend said that he was attracted to me after we had gone out one night together.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Lehman says she made a deal with her best friend April Morris to take over the payments on her truck and pay for repairs. April and her ex-husband James say they repossessed the truck because Kelly made the payments late.
So let's hear about this deal.
Okay, well, April and I have been friends since the first day of high school. I needed a more dependable vehicle. She had it. I said, okay, we made this arrangement. At the time when the payment came due for the August payment, I didn't want to make it. I didn't have the truck. Why should I make it if I didn't own it?
Why do you think she should have made payment on the truck if the truck wasn't in her possession?
It was her agreement with me that she would make that first payment. And we thought that the body work that needed to be done would be done a lot sooner.
But it wasn't. Didn't it seem unfair to you that she had
It wasn't
made
my fault.
hundreds of...
It wasn't my fault that the body, she agreed to make the payment.
But didn't it seem unfair to you? This is a friend of yours. Didn't it seem unfair to you that you had this truck that needed all kinds of repairs in order to make it drivable? Because there's stuff that was needed on the clutch and the bodywork and the muffler, things that she didn't know about at the beginning.
She knew about everything, and it was her choice.
The muffler was never told that it needed a new muffler.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I was never told that the windshield was cracked. I was never told that the truck had actually been rolled and that there was more damage to it than that was apparently done to it.
The truck wasn't rolled. Gives you another good lesson.
Right.
You don't buy a pig in a poke. If you're going to start spending money on something, you take a look at it, even if you're dealing with a friend. So you made the August payment.
Late. She made it late when she promised to make it on time.
She made it late, but at the time that she made it, she still didn't have the vehicle in her possession.
That wasn't my fault, though. But she didn't have a problem with it.
It wasn't my fault, madam. The truck was in your possession, under your control when it was damaged. Wasn't under her control when it was damaged.
She didn't have a problem with making that payment until we got in a fight over her boyfriend.
How much did you spend on this truck altogether?
Oh, I've spent a total of $1,053.38.
$1,053
and 38 cents.
38 cents. And that includes the bills that you have to show me for the repairs, as well as the 1 month's payment for August. You don't deny that she paid you this money?
I don't know what she's giving you.
Okay, show it to her.
At the time that the repairs were being done, I was told it would be a matter of days when I had given her the money, and it ended up taking like 2 weeks.
And that was not my fault. I kept mailing checks to the body shop, and they kept telling me they didn't receive them.
It's always somebody else's fault. You keep saying it's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. It's not her fault. You, step up here, I have a question for you. What's your name?
James.
James, you went and took the truck off the street.
Yes.
Did you know she had made all these repair payments? Look at me, James. Don't look at the floor. Did you know she had made all the repairs?
Yeah.
Well, didn't you think it was wrong to go and take the truck?
No.
Why not?
She didn't do everything she said she was going to do.
You're talking about this September payment that you didn't make on time. You repossessed this truck from her September 12th.
By the law,
No,
you
not
have to have
September 12th.
insurance on the vehicle. She didn't have insurance on the vehicle.
Did you ever discuss it? I mean, you were friends. Is that right?
Jim was
They
not
were
even
friends.
involved.
Just a second. If you were friends with her, that means you knew each other. You had socialized in each other's homes. Your children played. Is that true?
Kind of.
They never got along. They never got along.
I
You
can
can't
understand
stand her.
that. That's very understandable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, right now, she's out all this money, and you got the truck. And you were awarded the truck in the divorce, sir. Is
Yes.
that right?
That's right.
How many cars did your family have?
2.
2. You had the truck, and what kind of car did you have?
A Ford Escort.
Uh-huh. So you agreed between the two of you that you would keep the Escort and he would keep the truck. Is that correct?
But we also agreed that if she made the payments on time, as soon as our divorce was finalized, that we would sign and let her refinance the truck. But after we got in a fight, she didn't want to refinance. She said, I'm going to do what I want. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't take the vehicle from me. She refused to get insurance until it was in her name. Therefore, she's driving around a vehicle that we owe a lot of money on still. She did not make the, okay, granted, give her the first month. She did make the payment on time. If you say she didn't have the vehicle, even though she agreed and it wasn't my fault, the second month, she came up with an excuse. I don't have the money. I can't make it till it's late. She breached our agreement first. And when he took the truck, he took it on his own. I had nothing to do with it. The
Ms.
payment
Morris,
was late.
right now there is something inequitable about you having a totally fixed truck and her having nothing but the bills.
No. We offered to make her payments. They wouldn't accept it. They wanted all the money up front.
She paid all of it up front, $1,053.38. Can I have the bills, please?
She didn't
make it in payments.
I don't agree with all of this.
Ms. Morris, I don't care what you agree with. There is something
You asked
inequitable.
Me, you asked me,
Hey,
I'm telling you.
now I'm asking you to be quiet. You, sir, are driving around in a truck where she fixed the bodywork, she fixed the clutch, she fixed the muffler, she fixed the windshield, and you got
She
a
didn't
brick.
fix the windshield.
Fix no windshield.
Strike windshield. And you're driving around in the truck. You should have taken care of this yourself. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,053.38. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'm back to you right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And
He's on Levitt versus Felix. Step forward, please.
32.
हाँ जी अबे उमर भाई वो पीछे क्या नज़ारे हैं क्या नज़ारे हैं कसम कुरान की ओह जी लम लम गुड बाय लाल चौक चित्रा ये तुम्हारे को ये जगह चेक करो ये अभी बाजार चित्रा बाजार ही ऊपर है चलेंगे फिर मजा आएगा हाँ बाल बाल सिगरेट बाल ब्रेक रखो नहीं नहीं कोई ब्रेक नहीं जी उन छुड़का जी जान दो जी रुका ओ उन्हें नहीं छोड़ा जी उधर बूटी लंगी है जैसे और भाई और नहीं छुड़का जी कुछ ना कहानियां करा जी कहानियां ना करा जी ना जी ना ना ओ ना करो जी यकीन ना करो मैं यार क्यों आई आई आपका है मेरे पास है दे रहा हूँ 1 मिनट उतराई से उतरने दे ये रहा ये रहा टिन 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 टिन